Maxi.
Hello. I'm
Show
ready.
300.
I'm ready, dude. I've been ready since episode 3, you know?
You know who isn't here?
The
Captain Miserable.
Captain Miserable. You know, we had an argument at Discord this weekend.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah. You know what it was about?
About what?
About brake linkage.
I know that's a touchy spot for him.
Yeah.
That is a touchy topic for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no JQ this weekend. Asked if he wanted to come, said he was going to come, then changed his mind. And I just left it at that. This show is the Ryan Mayfield show special, but we are going to have a little bit of talk. This is our 300th episode. Let's drop that intro and let's get right into it.
Nitro is the glory, but e-buggy pays the bills. Welcome to the No Name RC podcast. Get ready for some serious bench racing. But be warned, we speak our minds, express our thoughts, and sometimes things can get a little rowdy.
Hate, and he just was influenced by the hate coming from the left, the hate coming from the right.
And let's get back to more club racing and less of this racing.
It's hard not to be arrogant when you're always right. You know?
See what I mean? That's exactly why people call you arrogant, Max.
You may not agree with everything we say, but it's definitely worth a listen.
And our pick, can you stop whatever you're doing?
Join your host, Lefty the Great, with co-hosts and guests as they get together to chat RC.
Hey, after that race that I watched this morning, I have to talk about it.
$100 right here, $100 throw. Oh no! I like this.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Nitro's the glory, but e-buggy pays the bills. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 300 of the No Name RC podcast. I'm your host, Keenan White, and over to my virtual right is Thuggin Max, and the electricity I thought the electricity just went out, but it didn't. It flickered. What's up, Maxie? How you doing?
I'm good. I don't know. I've been it's been a quiet day here. So I was like,
You've been busy.
We have a podcast today and so on, but it turned out we don't actually need to do a full podcast today because we just do this little recap of our history. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling very jolly about that.
Absolutely. All right. Before we do that, though, before we get into some chitter chatter, we have to say some thank yous and all that good stuff. First off, thank you to everybody out there, the NNRC squad. With none of you guys, none of this would have been possible. That's 300 episodes. It's fucking amazing. Thank you. 299 more than JQ ever thought I would do. So thank you guys for all the support. We greatly appreciate that. A big shout out to the NNRC YouTube members. You will get early access of this here shortly. The patrons have already got access to it. The Patreon has been going good. If you like what we're doing here at the No Name RC podcast, want to support it, want to get extra stuff, just have a place where you can hang out too as well. Join the NNRC Patreon. It's growing. It's great. And I'm going to start putting a lot more focus on that. Also, a big thank you to all the sponsors over these 300 episodes that have supported us. There's been a few that have stayed with us and gone. But Invisible Speed, High Tech RC, Corsa USA, Sidewinder Fuel, Mayako, Beach RC, Tekno RC, Clinic RC, Stacked RC, Racecraft USA. Also, a big shout out to Clinic RC because they're running an October special where you can save 20% if you use promo code NNRC. It's up until the end of the October. Remember, Tony does not give many coupon codes, so please go over and use that if you can. Also, we have some coupon codes. You can save some money at Donovan RC, Nitro's the Glory, on all your charge lead stuff, as well as Call RC. You can save some money, and that's an affiliate link. We greatly appreciate it. Links for all of this in the written description. There are some affiliate links. There are some coupon codes. There's just some links to these products. If you do buy a product, let them know you heard about it on the No Name RC podcast. Some of those companies have been with us from almost like the beginning. I would say Beach RC, Tekno RC have been with us for quite a long time, as well as Racecraft USA as well. Also, a big shout out to our drivers, David Ronifer, Robert Batty, Alexander Hagberg, Matty G, Pecco, Even, and Unihot and Mason Fuller for all your support. we're probably going to add to that list as well. And if you also look in our YouTube description or written description, we have some links for other companies that you can use and save some money. Don't forget, Get Shit Done Coffee. Shout out to my buddy Frank Sell. He was at a motocross race this week. Mayfield says he wants some of your coffee. But you can buy one and get 50% off your next product, your next purchase, or in the second purchase of that. Links for that in the written description of this podcast. All right, Max. No happy birthdays, no nothing like that. We're just going to have a quick catch up. We do have to pay some quick bills, by the way. Big shout out this past weekend to Tony Schumacher and them guys. They had their AZ Oktoberfest, and track was gnarly. It was dusty. I heard the first day was really rough. It was dusty and windy, but everybody braved through it. I think Mayfield kicked ass there, and it would look like a good event. I really need to get to this track at some point. Maybe next year we'll work it out where I can make it there. But up next with Tony Schumacher, I know is involved in this, is coming up is the Outlaw Series at Proline. So calling all races, the Outlaw Series at Proline Raceway is back and is going down November 22nd and 23rd in Banning, California. Get ready for epic battles on the track with Friday practice from noon to 8 p.m. and adrenaline-packed Saturday of qualifiers and mains starting at 7 a.m. Classes for every level from novice to pro. It's just $50 per class. Don't miss the showdown. Brought to you by Horizon Hobby, Proline, Tekno, and more. Let's race. See you all next month, actually. So if you're in the California area and you want to go race at a cool track that you don't get to race that much, it is Proline. All right, Max. So let's get right into it. Let's play one of our ads from our longest running sponsor, which is Invisible Speed. Thank you, JQ and Invisible Speed, for all your support. And if you guys haven't jumped on the Invisible Speed bandwagon yet, at least got the book up there, you should check it out and get on that course. We do have an affiliate link that you can use. And thank you very much.
Stop scrolling. You want to be Lewis Hamilton? Learn something new with Invisible Speed. You can't do everything at 100% maximum speed. You have to be smooth. When you drive a real car, if you drive a real car, how do you just, when you get to a 90-degree corner to turn into the parking lot, do you go like that with the steering wheel? Do you like slam on the throttle and the brake? No. You probably turn the wheel smooth and get on the throttle smooth. Same thing with an RC car. If you want to learn more and make your speed visible, stop scrolling.
Stop scrolling, Lewis Hamilton. JQ should have joined us, that Mr. Captain Miserable. But anyway, I'd rather have a engaged and funny JQ than a miserable JQ. Also, something I didn't mention, Max, is this is probably the last recorded podcast in the NNRC studio. We've been here for about 4 years. The decision was like, all right, I have a Starlink system now at the house. I've got good internet there for a good price. Let's save some money. Let's move the podcast down to the house in the spare bedroom, so it's going there. Maybe next week. I think I know next week our podcast will be recorded on that. I'm going to try and get everything out this week and moved on there and set up a makeshift. It's not going to be fully functioning. Not going to be fully set how I want it to be set, but it's going to be functioning so we can record. And it's kind of bittersweet. I'm looking around her. I had a lot of stuff, lots of action figures, lots of the RC boats, lots of acoustic foam. I would say it was fun. It did the job while it lasted. Did I take full utilization of the studio? Probably not. But it was good to come up here and get away, have peace and quiet, and able to record for hours and hours and hours. Anyway, let's move on, Max. So we are at our 300th episode. It is a Ryan Mayfield special. This is the second time that Mayfield's been on the podcast. I think he has the most downloaded audio-only podcast. He came back on the podcast when it was just audio-only. It was a good chat. I really think that the Wheel and Trigger chat with him and Brent was probably one of the best Mayfield podcasts. So I refer to that quite a lot. It is really a good podcast with him. And we got into some of the things like I wanted for him to really explain contingency. And he told me how Tekno contingency works, and it's actually pretty cool. So it's really based on the top 25. So, excuse me. Good interview with Ryan Mayfield. If you're a patron or NNRC member, you already heard it by now. Thank you for that support. If you want to get early access, hit that Patreon up. All right, Max. show 300. Let's get into this. This isn't going to be a big celebration. I think we're going to save our big celebration for the final show of the year, which will be our Christmas show. But hey, man, we finally did it. 300 episodes. That is a lot of. I was going through it, and you was going through it today before we came on. That's a lot of episodes. Now, we did do some short episodes out there as well, but in general, we did 2 to 5 hour podcasts for 300 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shortest
80%.
podcasts are like 1 hour, so it's like we have quite a lot.
Yeah, we was rushing this week as well because I thought that I was going to be leaving next week. I was actually a week ahead of schedule. That's how excited I am to get back to the USA. I was a week ahead of schedule, but I'm not. You've become an intense studier as well. Busy. I've been doing a lot of studying as well. A lot of YouTube watching. I think a lot of people like the latest little bit of talking head reels and clips we've been doing as well. So that's been cool. Repurposing all that content from the world as well as our podcast as well. And generating some great traction for the podcast. So I think it's really good, man. What about you, Max? What have you been up to so people know?
I've been just studying, dude. I don't think I've ever studied as hard as I did last week because we actually had school every day where I had to do something, return stuff. So I've been like actually studying. Usually I have time to do some other shit, but last week was busy.
Yeah, you've been super busy. I actually recorded a podcast with Moritz Lautenbach, which is the son of Jürgen, and that dude's uber smart. He's talking about quantum computers and all. He's a physicist. He's into physics. That's what he's studying.
Yeah.
So he's super intelligent. And it was actually one of those podcasts that turned out to be great. I had a chat with him at Carpet Champs, and I knew he liked, it was going to be a good conversation. But he went into science mode where I paid attention. But if you two got together, no. No way would I be able to stand listening to you two talking about quantum physics and all this type of stuff. But super smart guy. Going to get that up and up on the Patreon. It's probably going to be just a standalone podcast at some point. All right, Max. Let's get into this. So we said we're not going to take too long. We don't want to take too long because I know a lot of people want to listen to. He has a favorite clip of me. His added notes as we go on. So he's probably going to roast me. I want to kind of talk about how this all started. I've said this a few times. My first ever podcast that I listened to was the Radio Impound podcast, which had Gotti Jr., Jason Rouna, and Kirby Hand. Now, so Gotti Jr. and Kirby Hand used to both work at Trinity. Jason Rouna's podcast was great. It had 200. It has 200 something episodes. It's some of the best. And I got into that. I kind of geeked out on that and just kind of went through all the episodes that were there. There were some great episodes on there with past racers, and that was my first exposure to podcasting. Then we went through that period of time in RC where we had podcasts that were we had Lupus Live, we had On the Turn, we had, those two were kind of battling out. Lupus Live was really the edgy one. On the Turn, they were kind of battling out. But these guys never really talked about international racing. They kind of talked about what was happening in their area, maybe a little bit of national scenery stuff. And I remember always saying to JQ, these guys don't talk about international racing like I want to talk about it. Like I want to geek out on it, right? And I know at the time JQ was looking for somebody to do a podcast. He had this guy in Sweden trying to do one for him, the BBQ podcasting. They did 2 episodes. One with Ben Sternum. It sounded great. It was very good. Well produced and all that stuff. So I remember coming to JQ I think close to summer of 2018 saying, I want to make a podcast. And he goes, well, go price the equipment that you need. Talk to Joe Zaire Jr., who I knew had a podcast. He had ran out of talent. He was going as well. And at this time was other podcasts like Tim Smith Racing, which is all about drag racing. He was fun. I really liked his podcast. The MBM podcast I used to listen to. There was a good bit of podcast going at this point. So I bought some equipment. It wasn't the best. I was trying to get it cheap. And I remember JQ pestering me for months. When are you going to do a podcast? When are you going to do a podcast? You know how he is. Once he gets something, you need to do the podcast. Stop being a loser and do the podcast. We did a first podcast in a Motel 6 with Isherwood it was horrible. So it never came out. It was us sitting around a table talking in a janky Motel 6. I had just met Isherwood like for the first time. Anyway, fast forward. We finally do record our first podcast, show number 1. I thought it was released in October, but it was released in November 13th. And it's janky. The audio's echoey. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I knew nothing. I was sitting in the corner of my house in my living room, sweating, trying to figure out how to do this. And when I listen to that and what I listen to and how easy it is to do it nowadays, I'm just like, man, I've learned a lot. And because we had a guy in the Discord say, hey, where can I find episode 1? I said, well, you can't find it on YouTube, but it's probably easy to find all the episodes on Podbean. And when I go back and listen to that, I'm like, oh, that's bad. But people liked it. It started to gain traction, especially in the Southeast. So I started traveling to the Southeast. People were like, hey, we like it. We like it. You came on show 3, and then it just kind of snowballed. JQ said, you need to do a podcast every week. What? No way. That's so hard. How am I going to do that? Fuck, I ended up doing it. And we all ended up doing it. Guests started coming on. Yeah, it's just been a snowball, right? And if you want to go listen to a lot of people ask me, hey, you need to interview this person. Well, I did. It's just audio only. I didn't do the YouTube stuff. And I kind of fought that the whole time, and it was funny. It was a great podcast with Degani. Like, every podcast that Degani's been on has been good, right? And we need to get him back on. And now that I look back on that, I would like, besides the audio being so shitty, I wish I could change some but the content was good, right? And that's what the conversation was there. We were edgy. We was talking about stuff. And to an extent, I think we've maintained that. Obviously, you, Captain Anarchist, wants us to be edgy and extreme all the time.
Yeah,
right?
there was a point where you almost joined the dark side, or the light side, I guess. Then,
and you tried to have an intervention for me that failed.
Yeah, but then actually you realized yourself that you had it become soft. So we had that, but yeah, I remember, like, because this is fun time for me, the first podcast, because that was the time when you were still JQ Racing Team manager. And then I was running JQ Racing for one more year after that. So we kind of knew each other through the JQ Racing thing. We talked about stuff a bit then. But then I remember when the podcast started, I obviously wanted to help because I liked the idea. So I remember, like, I was coming, because I was still at school, upper secondary school. So I was coming home with the bus. I just remember on my phone, I don't remember if I did it on my phone or computer, but I was in a bus and I was just like clipping sections out of the podcast to post on Facebook. And then I posted it on the NNRC Facebook, and like, that was like the very early days of the podcast. That was fun.
Yeah, I did not know how to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But what I did was I got into the hobby of podcasting, right? So it became a hobby. That became a job. So everything that I did was to improve, to get better. I watched a lot of stuff. Audio was my big thing, like how to get my audio a little better. Even now, I'm talking on, I can hear a little bit of echo because a lot of stuff's going out of her. So you have the acoustic phone, but still have echo. And then, of course, you just learn, right? And then, man, it's been, I think JQ didn't even realize how big it was getting to the whole Lefty for IFMAR president thing started.
Yeah, and was that like 2018, or was that?
It might have been. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But JQ had this brilliant idea to come up with a Lefty for IFMAR president campaign, and it got traction to where IFMAR fucking got our Facebook page banned and all that stuff. And he was like, "Man, I didn't realize that the podcast has gotten so big." But yeah, even up to the 100 episodes we had on audio only, we had a lot of great guests. I was looking back, like Mayfield was one of them. Jason Snyder, who I'm going to get back on her, is probably one of my all-time favorite guests. Jason Rouna, who I realized I was like, yeah, he's been on her before. I didn't realize he was on her way back in episode 14, right? So lots of different things, lots of experimenting different codes. We had Jeff Keaton for the longest while. That's when we was in our rowdy stage.
That was
we gave zero fucks.
Yeah, I think I can't remember which episode gap that was, but it must have been like around 50 to 100 podcasts. But I remember like that time, it was basically like the podcast was 50% rant and 50% like other stuff. Whereas now the
Oh my God.
rants comes in like once in a while, maybe for 10 minutes. But
I
then it
have
was
a
like
whole
rant every week.
I have a whole Jeff Keaton rant against Adam Drake that I have not released yet. And it was, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough where JQ even said, yeah, we can't publish that. Like, it wasn't like he he didn't fuck him off. He just was telling a story. Like, not a bad story. It's just he was just, I have to go listen to it, but it was like 30 minutes. Me and JQ sat there completely quiet and we're just like, yeah, we're not publishing that.
Yeah, but I mean, those
maybe
two,
that goes up on Patreon.
I don't really know where Keaton is these days. Does he listen? I think he listens to the podcast though, but
I don't know. I haven't seen him on my feed for quite some time. He was racing. He lives in Idaho, so he was racing up there. But I think he just got out of it for a little bit.
yeah, because
the original shit fountain.
Yeah, they was the original shit fountains at Lupus Live then. So him and Bobby.
Dude, remember the great Lupus Live versus JQ battles of 2017?
Yeah.
That was something else.
Yeah, that was kind of like the era where I think JQ took a liking to podcast, because that was a big thing. And I think he even went on their podcast then back then.
He called in a few times.
Yeah.
Because they were, when they wanted ratings, they would just mention JQ and he would call in and people would go crazy.
Yeah.
But it was early podcast. They were really radical, right? And now I look back, that was really groundbreaking for everybody.
Yeah.
And it led to this. And then we came along and yeah, man, I think it's kind of like when people told me when I was going to leave Bermuda to come here to the Dominican Republic, and everybody thought I was going to be back in 6 months. Well, I remember when I told everybody, my friends in Bermuda, that I was going to get involved with RC racing and work with JQ. I was like, you just need to come back to Bermuda and all this type of stuff. Well, I think it worked out pretty good. It has not been an easy road. Trust me, it's been a lot of sleep. Just, it's still a long way to go. That's all I'm gonna say. But I guess we'll move on, because then the next big step, I think, in our career was when I actually did move to the studio, and I was like, all right, now I'm gonna put focus on YouTube video, right? Because I was able to get good internet here. The cable company that they own, the cable company that provides the internet owns the building where the studio is. So I pay them. My rent and the internet were the same price. Now I get the same internet from Starlink for like way cheaper, because the Dominican Republic has cheaper Starlink rates. Everybody, just so you guys know. I know in the States it's a little more expensive. So a big push to get back in was like JQ was another one. Like JQ influenced me to start doing the video podcasting. He's like, yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. And remember, our whole podcast is based off of Pulp MX, right? So that's where this all started. It was going to be like Pulp MX. I think Pulp MX made this switch to video, and that's when JQ's like, you need to make the switch to video as well, and YouTube. And that was like another learning curve. And I was like, I don't want to learn that. I don't want to, you know me, I'm always fighting technology. Now the complete opposite. I want all the technology and all the help that can be helped. So then started 101, I think it was. From there on, we've been doing more video podcasts than audio podcasts now. So
definitely. Yeah, we've done two times the amount.
Yes, exactly. So we started that. That was also another figuring out what's good, what's best. And I remember when JQ came here for the first time, it's like, oh, let's put the studio this way and that way. I mean, my plan for the next studio is multiple cameras. You know what I mean? And going all out like that and having, not a whole bunch of junk in the back. Like it's going to be a proper studio. Like I'm going to set it up nice, like, with that and all that type of stuff. So that led to more, now the hobby of not just podcasting, but getting video equipment and all this type of stuff. So that came, I bought this camera. This camera's lasted me for a long time. It's the same camera JQ has. It works great. I got a nice little setup here. I have a portable setup. And then, we just kind of got into the video stuff. And then we was like, well, how can we utilize the video stuff to grow our brand, grow other brands, all that type of stuff. That's where product placement came from, all that type of stuff. So
And that's
There were other people doing video.
We started like all kinds of stuff during this time because we had NNRC Cup, and then you started to going to these races. I think that was kind of the big thing during like the 130 or something episode.
Yeah, well, I was going to these races too, but it was just like DNC and these type of races.
It was a few races, but that's like because before then you kind of went to races as the JQ team manager,
right?
But this
started.
After this, you started going as the podcast guy.
Yeah. Once I started getting into the video side of things, that's when I started. All right, let me go. I think my first real race was like going to DNC. Right, I went to DNC. We got some money for kind of NNRC coverage. What we did at the Worlds recently. Yeah, I did that. I did nationals 1 year. I've done Silver State, so I was fortunate to get around to some of those races in the beginning. Then, we did. Sorry, we on a retrack. We did create the NNRC Cup, which I just got the points today, which I need to get them up for the intermediate. I know I'm lacking on the NNRC Cup. This is where we run out of brain power, right? And staying. That's why that's hopefully where we get somebody to help us out with that. NNRC Cup's a good idea, I think. I just need some little more help with it. We're doing it this year. I try to do everybody. It isn't working out how I thought it would. So there's going to be revamp for next year. And then, like you said, the travels, like going to RCGP in 2019, that's the next door that came, right? For myself, you was a racer still, pissed off. I know you're so angry you was like over it at RCGP in California. Is like, I don't want to travel no more. I just want to stay in Finland. And that's kind of, and then COVID hit. So you kind of had no choice after that. Yeah. But RCGP in Thunder Alley was when I started getting the commentary. That was pushed between Isherwood and those guys, something I had never done. And that opened up a lot of doors as well. So that and obviously we're here now. So what started as a podcast just to talk about international racing and push some rules, I think has become, and I would think probably the number one podcast in RC. We turned it into a business where because this is business, right? And we also have been on the leading edge, I think, on a lot of maybe not making the change happen, but definitely instituting and planting the seeds of change and a lot of things. And I think we might have recently influenced a lot of things like with Roar and all that type of stuff. So it kind of snowballed into something we didn't know. And to this day, when I go to the races, and we got a lot of props from the podcast, obviously working with Elite as well. I got a lot of props about that. When we went to the, we'll talk about that in this, after the race I went to after the Worlds, a lot of people were very happy with what you done as well at the Worlds, which is a next step for you as well, which helped you out. And I don't know. I've been doing all the talking. You go in. You tell me some of the things here that are memorable to you because you joined in 113 and became a staple. Like that's when kind of like Wally and JQ fell out. So people know JQ is part of this podcast too. Like still, right? We started it, so it's still a part. He doesn't come on much, but he doesn't. And Invisible Speed and Mayako both pay to be on the podcast. So for people to understand that, because I still people get confused and think this is a Mayako Invisible Speed JQ podcast. It's not. They pay to be the title sponsor. You came on show 113. I think you were still running Associated at the time.
Yeah,
right?
I remember because this was the time when I joined AE at the beginning of 2020. So this was pretty much the time when you was doing audio only still. And then, you went DNC 2020. That was kind of your first like official just podcasting race. I remember DNC in 2020. And then that summer, RCGP fell out because of COVID. All this kind of stuff kind of fell out. So then I was kind of just in army, racing in Finland, kind of quiet. And then I had this idea of doing my own videos. And I don't know if it was through that or was it even before that when you suggested that I'd come on. And then after that, I've been on pretty much every other episode or so.
Yeah, I mean, all the polish and everything. I mean, I can't reiterate how beneficial you've been to the podcast, right? I mean, you just now he goes, man, no wonder you can never find podcast scripts because I just looked at your Google Drive. It's a mess, right? I am bird brain. I love organization and all that type of stuff, but I am not good at doing it myself. So you pretty much do all the notes. We've had, look, and I can't tell you how many times people love you and love to hate you. Middle-aged guys my age hate you, and the younger generation loves you. And I try to tell people, I say, look, that's it. You can't have, it's a good cop, it's a bad cop thing, you know?
Yeah.
You are going to be Max, the European, who's going to, have a very European outlook on America. And I'm the neutral guy. Like I'm more of I obviously go more to America, but I can also see the difference, right? I'm into races in Europe. I've seen the racing in Europe. I can also see the differences, but I understand both sides. And I think, honestly, dude, like if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have even made it to 300 because you've just, like you do the notes, you do great notes. I try to follow them as much as possible. And there's times where we're burnt out. Like, I was reaching burnout just before the Worlds. We've brought on Will. We're bringing on Alex. We're trying to make a better team for next year to keep things fresh. But honestly, Max, the last 200 episodes, when you came on, which is pretty much 200 episodes, 200 shows, have been you. Like, you've made notes for me when I'm not even got a podcast. You're not going to be on it. And I tried to use you sparingly, so I give you some time off and bring you back. Yeah. And but I tried to give you time limits and safe words, and I've got sound timers. I've done hand signals. None of that shit works. You still go into science mode, and I've just learned to accept it. And when people complain about you, I just say, hey, for every person that complains about you, there's 5 people that like you. Not everybody likes what I say, and how I don't finish sentences and all that stuff.
I do think it's funny how I was kind of like involved at the very beginning, and then it kind of like faded out because I was still really into racing. I remember like in 2019, I was really into racing. 2020, I was kind of like, those were the 2 years where I was gone, the sort of first 100 episodes. And then like we're back to the start where it's kind of like you and me. Well, JQ is kind of gone now, but it's you and me doing the podcast and clips. And
we get along with our guests. Like Roach is fun. We got along with Roach. We had Will on, even though Will was a little bit quiet the other day. But we're always willing to try different stuff. We started some rebranding that shows 160. I remember we did that. I think that was going into 2023.
2022. So I remember this because it was kind of like the point where we was like, okay, like Keenan's gonna burn out. We have to change stuff. And I think this is kind of the point where JQ kind of started to fade out of the podcast because obviously David came. This is around the time where David joined Mayako. So
that was such a
Joseph
episode.
was like completely invested in Invisible Speed and Mayako and so on. And then, he was out of the podcast and it was kind of like, we have to make changes so we can sustain it. And then we did that 2 podcast a week thing, which probably in hindsight wasn't the best, but it was good for us though. It was like made a lot of
let's take it easy. Let's not burn out. Oh, let's do more. Yeah. Come on.
On paper, it was doing less, but actually it ended up just being, instead of doing 2 1-hour podcasts, we just did 2 2-hour podcasts. So
I know. It's funny. But that was a good time for us learning. And just for everybody to know, I did not know the Runnerfuck was coming to join Mayako before that clip. And that was genuine surprise. And probably one of my best moments on this podcast.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
Can we take a look at it? I put the clip on the note.
Oh, did you? Do you have it, her? Let's bring it up, her.
Yeah, because I remember I wanted to put this on because this is like, first of all, this is one of the most viewed podcasts we have, I think, because everyone went to watch it after they found out that this was something about Mayako and Runnerfall. But your reaction is just gold on this one.
All right, I'm gonna bring it up, her. Give me a second, everybody.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. So give me a second. I honestly did not know this was going to happen. So
yeah. And this was kind of the time when you become the silly season master, Okay.
Oh my goodness, he admitted it, everybody. He said, I'm the silly season master. All right, let me put the volume on her. Let's watch this clip. Let me put it in good setting. All right, there we go.
The original designs. And now that they get the car in their hands and they practice with Mayako. So they share their opinions and everyone can help to build a perfect platform. Let me ask, why did you choose Mayako, David?
I decided to join Mayako because I believe in this project. The first time I held the car in my hands was the day before I signed the contract, so I haven't even driven the car yet. I just know it's good. But most importantly, I know that together we'll make it even better.
That was
great. That was great.
That was epic. I'll never forget that. I'm still got tears in my eyes now looking at that. That was such a happy moment.
Yeah.
And a good year for Mayako too. Unfortunately, that went all sour. But made good friendships. Still good friends with Ron Falk and Robert and everybody to this day. And that was probably one of my favorite. Even though I'm still got tears coming on. That was such a good moment. Such a good surprise. All right. Let's move on. I know we said we're going to do 30 minutes, but we're going over 30 minutes. So let's just try to wrap this up.
Yeah.
The latest 100 of the podcasts that we've been doing, you've seen a mixture of things. You've seen us bring on more 3 people just to break it up a little bit. I'd love to have like 4 people on her at some point as well. It does get a little bit hodgy-podgy because we're all on different internet, and StreamYard works very weird. We've seen one-off interviews as well. I am trying to also rebrand. So my goal is to have every single podcast on her from 1 to 300 or whatever we go. So, but I have to go back and kind of do thumbnails for all of them, and I have them, but yeah. Man, I think over the last 100 episodes, our focus has also shifted a little bit too. We didn't go away to race as much. Not to do NNRC content. I've been obviously traveling to do commentary. I found that reels and shorts and all that stuff have been super popular. Just getting that at races, building up the Instagram, IG. Like I still say to this point, one of my proudest things is that I have an Instagram that's 23,000 people followers, which is still hard to do. TikTok, YouTube, all that type of stuff. So we've been Facebook, all that stuff's been constantly growing. YouTube numbers could be better, but I also understand that we have very long form content. I would love to get up to 10,000K. And we've had some refocusing on a lot of things over the last 100 episodes. We've also, some days you might see us put out a whole bunch of podcasts and we might take some time off. So we're also experimenting with that. Lately, you've seen us splitting up podcasts, but no more focus on Patreon. Yes, we want people to go to the Patreon. We want to kind of put that behind a paywall. There's juicy segments, and not completely, you'll get it, but kind of like we're not doing anything different than any other YouTube channels are doing anything like that. And I don't know, Max, talk about briefly about the latest 100 episodes because you've been heavily involved in them as well.
Yeah, I think sort of from 100 to 200 was kind of, midway through, like 160 was it? We kind of tried the rebranding thing. Some of the aspects stayed, some of them kind of went away. Last 100, we've kind of experimenting, bringing on more people. Obviously, I think the biggest thing that has changed because around the 160, 150, 160 episode mark, that's when you started to really, really, really be busy at going to races because you went to every single race that was out there. Then last year you kind of went to less races, but then this year you again at races, but this time no NNRC stuff. So it's been very different. But then again at the Worlds we kind of went all out on content. So
yes,
we've been doing a lot of different stuff, and I think maybe now moving after this year we have plans for the future. And we see like a lot of people have, what did we get, like almost 1,000 new subscribers over the worlds because of our coverage. So we want to keep improving, and I think it's been good because we've had so many people on, like helping in the background, but it's like kind of they come and go. People have busy times, but for the future, we want to be more attached to people. Like people be.
Yeah, we're
within
always
the
looking for people who
community.
are. Yeah, we're expanding our team. Like we're bringing Bill on, he's gonna build us a website and all that stuff. We also have our friend Alex who might come on. He's gonna come on, but no, everybody has their individual things. I'm the one that's doing this full time. You have your thing going on, but I'm about to get busy too. So it's been a good ride. We're not going anywhere. We're revamping. We're getting ready for 2025. We saw that. The Worlds was a test. Let's see what we could do. You did an exceptional job. I think you also surprised yourself. I think people were surprised by you as well, which also built your brand. You didn't just become annoying Max, the professor of everything. You was out there getting people information and doing a lot of good stuff. And I think people really enjoyed it, which allowed me to go up and focus on what I had to do. And it my plan worked out exactly how I had foreseen it and beyond. So thank you very much for that. And we see that that's viable, right? So we see people want that. And we're planning on doing a few more races, you and I together in 2025, the Euros in Portugal and the e-buggy Worlds, and maybe some other races. I would love for us to both go to the 10 scale Worlds, but to be honest, it's a little expensive. And we're not taking no prisoners with that. Like that was work, a lot of work. You go and sleep with your laptop on your chest, me up to 1 o'clock, you guys going out to eat and me not going to eat. And it's a lot of work. And, I put myself on a lot of stress for that because I wanted it to be good. And I think the people enjoyed it. And hopefully we get to do it some more. I know I'm going to try and do it some more on my own, maybe with Danny or somebody. But you and I definitely are getting together probably at some of these European races to do it. And I think it brings a great aspect to that part of the race. I think it brought great information to the Worlds. And I think all the media companies had to kind of just all work a little bit more. And that was good. So it was good for the consumer, which is the client, the people that are watching. And I would say that in the last couple of years, I've seen media just get the industry as a whole kind of embracing the media. Yes, we get the accusations of being the RC TMZ, and when there's TMZ stuff, absolutely. Like last podcast, lots of TMZ stuff,
Yeah.
Me dreaming up things of Ongaro going to infinity and all that type of stuff. That's what it takes in silly season, right? And yeah, it's been great, man. It's been great. Here's to 300 episodes. Here's to our future in 2025. If you're a patron, I explained kind of what we're going to do. We're not going anywhere. Well, basically, we're trying to morph into a full-fledged media source with website, all that type of stuff up and running, coverage at races, select races, not every race, NNRC content. And of course, I work with various different teams to bring in the live stream. Of course, my main one being the boys at Elite RC Productions. So lots of cool things. We want to say thank you to, I guess, I want to say thank you, Max, but I guess you should have something if you want to say, because you're still very much involved. You're second in command here. And, I once again, I can't say thank you to all your help, your time, your girlfriend too, because I know
Yeah.
even now, we're supposed to be doing a short recap and we're going 45 minutes.
Yeah, but that's been kind of a recent addition, though. I remember 50 episodes ago, we had no time constraints. But, yeah.
He was also probably 50, 60 pounds lighter too. Sorry, had to throw that one in there.
Okay. It's called relationship weight. I don't know, dude. It's been kind of crazy because I thought I came in at like 200 episodes, but we've actually kind of done almost 200 episodes together now. Yeah, things have gone so far. Like, 'cause I was going through the timeline, like all the things we've done, all the revamps, the rebranding, all the stuff we've been working on in the past. It's like 3 years now. I looked, the first episode I was back in after the third episode was in 2020, early 2021. So it's almost been like 4 years now that I've been on the podcast. That's pretty crazy.
Well, it's been going since 6 years now on the podcast.
Yeah,
6 years in November.
Yeah.
So
That is
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite insane actually when you think about it. But yeah, I think it's kind of morphed into now that, because we pretty much do all of the episodes together now. But back in the day, it was kind of me and JQ flipping, but now it's kind of just me and you writing this out.
Yeah, if maybe a Roach or Will or somebody
Yeah.
added. And we're always looking to develop new things. We have some cool ideas for segments coming up next year. We're working on our quality. If you guys want to know that our video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going and doing some more editing. We're working on new sponsorship stuff for next year for everybody, and obviously NNRC content seems to be really popular. So we're going to be trying to do more of that next year. Not every big race, but big races. It's about going out there, getting the money for the stuff. We have to get tickets, hotel, everything paid for, money in pocket, and money to the podcast. So, and this is work. So we enjoyed it. We loved it. We enjoyed it. I loved it. It was informative. I think it made the world exciting, and I think it makes any race exciting. So, but at the end of the day, honestly, without the support of the people who rock our t-shirts, rock our stickers, I'm looking at doing some other little things. We are going to have a possible web shop where you can buy. It'd be like one of those web shops where you pay and you have to wait till the shirt's built and all, made and all that stuff. We're looking at doing some different designs. You know what I'm saying?
I love that you have to wait for the shirts built. Can we?
Well, you do build them, you design them, and then they build them. They make them to order. We'll have shirts at races as well with the Elite RC Productions crew. It's been an awesome ride. We still have a lot of work to do. Lots of work. We can't stop. And that's the thing. We don't want to stop. I still am excited to get talking behind the mic. I mean, prior to this, I was dragging ass, and now I don't want to stop. So thank you, everybody. Without you guys, none of this was possible. Thank you to all the companies that have supported us over the year and continue to support us. If you're a new company that wants to support us in 2025, give us a couple of weeks. We're working on all of that going in. We have some really cool things coming up. If you haven't joined our Patreon, please do, or our YouTube membership. But I think the Patreon's a little bit better. Please do. You get early access and all that good stuff. And thank you, everybody. 300 episodes. Here's to 500. 200 more. Well, we got to get to 400 too. It takes a couple years, man. It's about 50 episodes a year. We can speed it up. But
there was a time when we did a bit more. Yeah, but it is about 50 a year. So
yeah, and we have no producers, no editors, none of this stuff. I'm doing it all myself. And you'll start to see a little bit more short form content coming on the podcast too. And I really liked what we did at the Worlds, and I want to do some more stuff like that. And we thank you guys, man. No big party, just a recap of how we feel about it. Here's to many more interviews. There's a lot of interviews I want to get on her. Adam Drake is one of them. Adam Drake, John Hazelwood, Yannick Igon. I'd love to get like Masami on her. I like the legends. I need to get Dagani. My dream podcast would be like Dagani, Quartz, Steve Dunn, Chad Bradley.
That would be great. I know that would be great.
That would be a crazy podcast. Max, we've talked long enough. Let's let everybody go. Thank you for all your hard work, dude. Thank you. You're my right-hand man. You've been a great co-host. We've had some good arguments. We've got plenty more to come. And I thank you and you for all your support as well, man, because without this, I wouldn't have been possible. And thank everybody out there. NNRC squad, give yourself a hand. That's how I clap. You guys have supported the podcast for many, many years. Continue to support it. Help us grow the YouTube channel. 10,000 is the goal. Yeah. We want to be at 10,000 by next year this time.
Can we get comments on down there, the first podcast you kind of watched at release? Because I want to see how many people we have, because I know because even the earlier podcast they got like up to 1,000 views. So yeah, I think comment. I want to know how many of you guys have been there listening to me. Like, what is it now? 3 years ago? No.
Well,
6 years.
You know what happens is
because I was in
a lot of people discover this and then binge watch from
I know.
to.
Yeah, but I want to know the first podcast like at release that you listened to. So
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, let us know in the comments below what was the first podcast you listened to, and what's your favorite podcast.
Yeah.
You know what? We should probably add up how many hours of podcasting we've done.
I don't know.
It's got to be almost 1,000 hours of content on her.
Easily, yeah.
Got to be. Somebody's going to go out there and do it for us. And if you're interested in helping us out a little bit, we're always looking for cool people to join the team. If you can make millions and millions of unicorn dollars working at the NNRC. Millions and millions of unicorn dollars.
Yeah.
So with that said, Max, we're going to send this over to Ryan Mayfield. Hope you guys enjoyed the Ryan Mayfield special. It was just a candid talk. We have a guest appearance from Spencer Fluffy Heckert. That's what they call him apparently now. And
luckily not.
Yeah, thank you, Mayfield, for your time too. Thank you, Mayfield, for your time. I probably could have talked to Mayfield for another hour, but I knew he had to go pick up his kids. So I kind of had to wind it down.
He's a family man these days. Crazy.
He is. I know all about how his struggles. Anyway, here is the podcast with Ryan Mayfield, brought to you by, if I find it quickly, Tekno RC.
Tekno RC. Tekno RC is a championship-winning manufacturer of high-performance A-scale, 10-scale, nitro, and electric RC buggies and trucks. With a worldwide dealer network, USA and Europe-based headquarters, comprehensive warranty program, and global race support, Tekno RC is excellence in RC. View the full lineup of Tekno RC race-proven vehicles by visiting www.teknorc.com.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
You drink coffee?
Yeah, I just took a shot of espresso to try to perk up for you here.
I just got a first batch of this in from my buddy Frank Sell. Get Shit Done coffee. He's a Tekno driver too.
Right on.
So, maybe we should get, we have this and he has beans and all that stuff, as well as, powder. But he sent me some of these. They're pretty good. I like to drink them. Get Shit Done coffee. Yeah, Frank, we got to get Mayfield on the Get Shit Done coffee tip.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'm not afraid.
There you go. Hey, man, thank you for coming on. We've been trying to plan this for some time. It's been like 3 months, but it's been a busy 3 months for you and me. So Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry for the mess behind me. Just my garage,
That's all right.
But it's been a busy 3 months. Just worlds and other events and all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for me, I remember we were supposed to record one day when I was in the USA, and I was like, "Dude, I'm going to the Brickyard." And it's like, you're like, "Go ahead, have fun. It's badass. You like it."
Yep,
I did.
Yeah, that's cool. You got to go do that. I've been there once, and it was definitely an experience.
Big shout out to Lance for making that happen, and Danny Stockman for getting us hooked up, and Greg Holland who got us up in some sweets. Nice. I have a confession to make, dude. So you have been, I've been doing this for a little while now, and I've seen you at races and all this type of stuff, and we know each other, but I wasn't fully comfortable around you till last year Wicked Weekend. Really, when we were sitting off talking that night, and I was like, all right. I wasn't comfortable around you. I don't know. I was always nervous around you, but now I'm like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just my, super nice, fluffy personality, I guess. I come off pretty, especially at a track. I don't know. I'm just there working. I'm normally pretty mad about something. You know what I mean? Like it's racing. If you're happy, that means everything's just working too good.
You do look intimidating, dude. You do, but that's just me.
I mean, I can't really change that. I mean, I try to, be as approachable as I can, but sometimes you just, super busy in the middle of something, and it's like somebody approaches you, and you literally don't have time. And I try not to come off as a dick, but sometimes it happens, and
it does.
Try to find that guy later, and hey, my bad, like I'm. I got my engine apart over here or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, most of the time once somebody probably 2 or 3 conversations into knowing me, then they realize I'm not as big of an asshole as I initially come off. But I also I meet a lot of people, so I can't just right away be friends with everybody because that's hard to manage. You know what I mean? Because it seems like 90% of the time somebody's approaching me because they want something. They need something.
Gotcha.
So it's like, if I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah. Then I just open the door for them to always need it, want it, and you know what I mean. So I just try to be a little cautious with.
You got to protect your space, man. You got to protect your space. I know how you feel because I have to kind of do the same thing sometimes. Right. But I get it, man. I get it. I would say I was going to leave this for later, but I would say that all of you guys now. I would say that the Worlds, it was a good example of that. But I think as drivers, as an industry whole, everybody is more available now. And I noticed that at the Worlds to chat, to talk, even when, you obviously weren't having probably the best world championship, but you were still available to chat when Max or somebody came up and various media companies came up. And I think that's a positive step forward in our industry.
It also helps at Worlds too, because there's, it's one car and, it's way more scheduled. You know exactly when you're up. When we're at Nitro Challenge Wicked Weekend or whatever, we're running 4 cars sometimes, and you don't know when the hell you're up. So you have to have everything ready. So then, finding media time during those events, that's probably when I've said, hey, I can't do it, to you or somebody like, hey, I can't do it right now. Like, I got to get these 3 cars ready because I'm not sure when I'm up. Worlds is always good for that because, like I said, it's just more scheduled and you actually have some time to do that kind of stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I know when not to bother you and I know when to come up to you. So that's something that people have to learn as well. All right. So I checked. You was on her. I forgot the number, but it was a long time ago. It was probably 2018, late 2018 that you was on her. And you most popular podcast that I have on audio only because it was audio only. And I even re-released it and it was still popular. It was a great chat with you. But I also watched Wheel and Trigger twice because I thought that was probably one of the best interviews I've seen was with you and Brent, and I was loving it. There was lots of good information in there.
Was it the one in the studio or the one at Worlds?
No, the good one in the studio. That's why I haven't watched the one at the Worlds. I need to watch that one. But it was really good and it was very candid. I loved it. And good job to Brent and you guys for doing that. That was good. So it also gives me a lot of ideas going into this. But I kind of want to start this out. Obviously you joined Tekno back in the end of 2022. People were kind of surprised at you leaving Mugen. I think I understand why you left. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on it because you did see a lot of success at Mugen, but a lot of success, early success. And maybe kind of walk us through how the whole process of you deciding to leave Mugen and join Tekno kind of happened.
Well, it's, this is a business. I do this as a job, so I get paid to race. That's obviously no secret. And the reason the Mugen thing worked is because I ran for Yokomo, and basically 2/3 of the salary I was receiving for the chassis side of things came from Yokomo. So when the Yokomo stuff ended, basically just, the Mugen money essentially wasn't enough, and they didn't have 10 scale cars at the time. So, if you don't have the full line of vehicles, you don't really there's no need for them to pay me, quadruple what they are, what they are currently paying me. So, and honestly, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I knew something, would come along, but yeah, Tekno called me and I thought it was kind of interesting. I never really pictured myself, like running for Tekno, and we had a good conversation on the phone. Danny, the owner, called me and I'm like, man, this guy's pretty cool. I hadn't really spent a lot of time, chatting with him. So they sent me a car. I tried it. I tested with them and I realized I'm like, man, these guys are pretty dedicated to this and they have a lot of good ideas and the cars are very, very capable. And obviously the money made sense, which is, again, it's a business. And but yeah, that's basically it. It's just, just like a regular job, if there's another opportunity that's more money or just a better fit for you, which is basically what this was, then that's what happened.
Now that option is kind of going away that guys had. Yeah, I remember you and Cav were doing like Yokomo, or he was doing, like he was doing Schumacher and 8 scale. But But with Mugen now getting their 10 scale car, that used to be the thing, right? You'll get a Yokomo and then run Mugen, Schumacher run Mugen. Now you don't have many brands that are, you have lots of 8 scale brands, but competitive brands that can pay a driver of your caliber. They don't have that option anymore. Maybe a Mayako, maybe a Sparko or something, but there's very few brands out there with that type of money. So I want people to understand that Yokomo was at this time, if I remember correctly, because Cavallari was getting paid pretty good, they were paying you a good bit of money to run 10 scale at this time. And obviously, Mugen has always kind of been like that, right? They're not a brand that has spent a lot of money on drivers per se.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say maybe I was the first driver in the U.S. that that Mugen paid. So it's kind of I don't know, just I mean, but there's money out. There's companies that still prioritize racing, and those are the companies that pay drivers, and
yeah, but I mean, for that chance to have that separate, because 10 scale was booming, it was paying more. Yokomo was seemed to have more money to pay. There's companies that option for guys is kind of dwindling to an extent.
Yeah, I think just more companies are making all the cars.
Yes,
like you said, Mugen's making a 2-wheel drive car now. I'm sure their 4-wheel drive's close. Tekno's had 10 scale stuff. They obviously have this, their whole line of 8 scale stuff. I mean, we've seen Schumacher dabble in 8 scale. They made an 8 scale car for Mikal to run, a few years back at Spain. I mean, it was just a modified Mugen car, but they've obviously thought about it. And then, with Yokomo, Yokomo was a really good deal, but the company got sold off and restructuring kind of happened, and that basically is why it ended. But I mean, they're still in business, obviously. They just prioritize
drift car.
Yeah,
that's what they
make. They just prioritize their time differently. So
all right. So you go from the pivot bowl car to the C Hub. For a lot of people, this seems to be a big change. One of my buddies and I think this is what's happening with Runnerfolk right now, going from C Hub to Pillow Bowl, right? And it's a big change. It hasn't seemed to affect you as much, but has it been something that you have to learn again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think all RC cars drive like RC cars, and the difference is that from one car to the next car, they have different setting opportunities. So like a C-Hub car just has more settings in the front end than a pillowball car does. And, so if you learn those settings, you can, get it to drive like a pillowball car for the most part on certain conditions. But I think that's why pillowball cars are obviously pretty popular, amongst the manufacturers right now, because, it's just a simpler platform to build. You don't have to have all these different caster blocks and different spindles and, all these camber link options, it's just more streamlined kind of deal. That's when I ran a Mugen car, I'd always basically run out of adjustments. I'd be like, oh man, I need a little less steering, a little more steering, whatever. And it's like, well, it is what it is. This is what I got, so that's a good thing. That's a bad thing sometimes. But yeah, with the C-Hub card, it's more tunable, which is good and bad. But I don't know. I think a C-Hub car makes more rear grip, and a pillowball car, inherently has to be a little freer to drive because the front end is just less tunable.
Okay. So you've been with Tekno about 2 years now. They just came out with the 2.2, I think it's called. What were some of the things that you kind of wanted to focus on for yourself personally with the car from when you first started to where you guys are now? Maybe. So, all right, here's a better question. What were some of the things that you liked about the car that made you, because I'm going to retract. Sorry. There's this misconception that you guys can drive anything. You can drive you put a shoebox of wheels on it, you can drive a Nitro car, anything. And I think that's preposterous. I don't think that's true. I think actually at you guys' level, the type of car that you're driving and the setup that you're driving is very pivotal to you because you guys can sense those type of changes. But when you drove the Tekno, what was some of the things that was drawn to you? And what are some of the things that you guys have had to work on over the last your tenure there, the last 2 years, pretty much?
I mean, when I first drove it, I was really impressed with just how much traction it made overall. It was easy to drive. It responded well to, quick changes. And it seemed like, quick changes like sway bars and stuff, like it would do what you wanted it to do, but it wouldn't like totally break the car. Like some cars are very sensitive to stuff like that. This car wasn't. And the biggest thing was I was really impressed with the people there and like how, just motivated they were. And they're like, whatever you think, like, we'll work on it. We'll get it going. We'll change this, whatever. So, I think some of the first stuff that I really was concerned about was just getting some weight, off the car, especially on the top. So we're like, that's where kind of a lot of these shock towers came from. We have, 2 new different shock towers, which is a nice tuning option. And then it's like some smaller stuff that made a really big difference was like differentials. The diffs, we would kind of have a problem in hot weather, like the diffs would kind of fade. So we really focused on that, changing materials or, adding shims or taking away shims or whatever. And I pretty much got that sorted out. And then getting the car to accelerate better. So, we did some drive shaft options. That worked really well. And then just a lot of the stuff that they were already working on, I guess I kind of confirmed that was the right direction. And then we ultimately got to this car that's in the kit now. And I think it's, it's a great car. It's one of the best cars I think you can just build out of the box.
I agree with you 100%.
So yeah, I think they've, and there's a lot more. I mean, there's a lot more to learn. It's racing. If you're not looking for speed, then you're going to get beat, so we're obviously always trying to get better and, looking towards, the next, generation of vehicles or update or whatever. And, but that's what's good. I mean, they're ready to roll, they want to just keep going. So,
yeah, I've gotten to know Danny and Matt over the years. Very nice people. A lot of respect for them. I love, it seems like Tekno has a really good team structure. They get people on the team. They don't leave the car, the truck. I think the truggies are phenomenal. Like the Nitro truggy and the e-truggy are phenomenal. I think the best truggy out there in the market. Reason probably why e-truggy is popular now because of that car.
Yeah.
But I see on that level people doing very well regionally and people staying with the team. So they've done a really good job tackling Europe now. Good thing for them. I know that was something they are very tentative about. But now they see that it's a market over there that they need to do. I think the best year they've had in Europe. So the very forward-thinking people there. They're pretty open, and I like them. They're nice people.
Yep.
And they seem to do a good job. And I like how that they've used their platform to make many different vehicles that are all popular.
Yeah.
And things work, interchange, like the short course and the mini truggy and all that stuff. It's all really cool how they did it. It's all kind of modular, and it's a good thing. But I just wanted to, before we move on, what would you say to those people who say that you guys can drive anything?
Oh, yeah. Well, we can drive anything, obviously. Like that's, part of the job. But to compete at the highest level, that's when not anything is acceptable. You know what I mean? Like just because I can drive, grab, Joe Blow's car and I can drive around the track better than him doesn't mean I can go win with that car. That's what people think. They say, I hear that all the time. Like, oh man, if you were driving my car, you'd win. It's like, no, that's not it. When we're running at this highest level, I mean, we're looking for, tenths of a second, hundredths of a second. We're looking for 5% more steering in this one corner, like it's small little things. So that's when you come back and, a lot of the times if an average guy drives our car the way we set it up, they probably can't drive it very well because it's going to be a lot harder to drive than what we make it look like going around the track. I think like one of the things with me is what I'm always looking for is trying to drive a car with minimal wheel input and throttle input. Like I want the car to be snappy and quick, with not having to drive the hell out of it. So that's when, some of these, people always want your setup and you give it to them. You're like, man, you must be lying to me. I can't drive this thing. And it's like, well, it wasn't designed around how you drive it. It was designed around how I drive it. But yeah, we can drive anything, but we can't win with anything. That's
right. Sure. And you're also facing competition that's just as good as you. So it's a difference.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody is out there doing the same exact thing as far as looking for speed. And there's a lot of talented guys, especially in A-Scale right now, man. Like when it's, we got all the European dudes and all the American dudes together. It's like, holy crap. This is, this is a new level.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I absolutely love it. People don't know until you get there, right?
Yeah.
And see how you guys just up the level each time. I tell guys at a Worlds, people don't even want to be last coming out of a pit lane for the warm up.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
it's crazy. Well, that's a great segue into your into the lap. So in American racing for the last 4 years, well, since COVID, since we got racing back after COVID, and America started racing a lot early. I think they started racing in 2020. It's kind of been you and Dakotah who have won most of this. I mean, you've won the nationals. He's won the nationals. You've won each one of you have won every big race out there, I think, over the last 4 years. The only person really to interrupt you guys' streak has been Ty Tessman. I think he did that at PMB that year, and Wiggins did it at Visions, but I'm talking about big races. And then we saw Brandon Rose do it again this year at SIC, and we have lots of fast guys out there.
Yeah,
but it's like they still haven't stepped up to consistently beat you and Fend yet. And that's what I try to tell people all the time. They don't just have to beat you once. They have to consistently beat you. And people's like, well, when is the old guard going to let go? Obviously, look, I know you're a little older now. You're going to be 37, 38, right? Fend's a little younger, but you guys have been doing this for a long time. And I tell people all the time, well, these guys are going to beat them consistently to take over that old guard.
Yeah. Well,
what do you think about that?
I mean, obviously, yeah, you're not wrong. It's a lot. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why I know why I've been successful. I mean, I think, I've had this talent to drive these cars for a long time. And within the last, 5 to 7 years, I think I've kind of, so to speak, gotten my shit together and got my program to where I know exactly what I need to have ready. I make sure I go to these races with my cars. Like if I had to get there and just race the main, I would be comfortable doing that. So basically what I've learned over time is that your first run on the track, even in just an open practice scenario at PMB or whatever, is very pivotal because you want that car. You don't want any dumb things going on. You don't want to worry about your brakes not working right or your motor not running right or your drivetrain not broken in. Like every time you get on the track, your car needs to be good so that you can make the correct adjustments for the next time you're on the track. So I know that's something that's helped me. I mean, obviously Brandon Rose, Mason Fuller, Ryan Lutz. I mean, there's a ton of guys here that have the ability to win and do win, I mean, Lutz just beat my ass at the Mugen Challenge. Right? He did. So I completely respect all these dudes. And, I try to make sure that I go to these bigger events and I try to step my level up because I'm assuming everybody else is going to come with the same kind of fire. So, but yeah, I mean, I've obviously been very fortunate over the last few years to have a lot of wins and Dakotah as well. And racing him all the time has been super fun and racing all these other guys. And, I've had things go my way. I've had things not go my way, but I try to eliminate as much as I can at home, working on everything, making sure it's prepped, breaking in everything, blah, blah, blah. And I definitely think that's helped me for sure.
Yeah. I once again, go back to Wheel and Trigger, and you were saying about the work that you put in at home prior to going to these races where you want your car or you want to just put tires on and go. Yeah. And that's always getting out there on the front foot and being prepared. And that's the hard work that people don't see behind the backgrounds. And like we was talking before, you got to go pick up your daughters and your daughter and your son. I'm kind of similar. I'm when I'm not at a track, when I'm there, I'm home being a dad, right? And doing these podcasts and stuff. But I want to ask, so I'm a big Mason Fuller fan, right? I know he's going to be the future. I know Brandon Rose, like all these guys are the guys. They're still young, right? But they've been doing this so long. I'm still waiting for him to get that big win. He's been close. He's been top 3, but he hasn't really got that big win under his belt. If you're I guess I don't know if you're going to give your competition any help, but what is it that Mason Fuller is kind of needing to get that win and continuously win?
I don't know. I mean, damn, he's pretty fast. I mean, here comes Spencer Heckert walking in.
Fluffy.
Yep. He just waking up.
Look at
rolling in at 10.
Get it ready for the Nitro compound.
Yep.
Yeah,
what up, Fluffy?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You guys have fun this weekend at Nitro compound. Tony Schumacher's putting a lot of work in.
Yep. We'll be making it happen.
It's gonna be good. I'll be watching.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what Mason is missing, if anything. You know, he's just young, and it just takes repetition, time, track time, putting yourself in these scenarios more often to where mistakes don't happen. I mean, Hello Worlds, if he wouldn't have had that weird problem, he probably would have got third. He was like up pretty damn close, keeping those guys honest, and then had a weird problem. So, but
he had a climb from way back. Like he wasn't fast right away. He was like a steady progression.
Yeah.
Speed. I like that guy. Let's talk about you and Fen. You guys have had some epic battles. I think what I've seen under the Tekno is, and as you've gotten older, I've watched your career for a long time. I think the last time we talked, we touched on this, but you've learned to turn it down a bit. And I've also watched you muscle races. Like I'll give a race, an example to a race where you muscled, like you just willed yourself to win. DNC 2023, when we went underneath the roof, right? And then I would say AMS last year was another race where I saw you like muscle your way. You was like, you took the lead and you was, because Canas was fast, Fen was fast, and you kind of wasn't there. You was mid-pack, right? If I remember correctly. I can't remember. It's so many races. But I remember you got out, you got a lead, and you like said, fuck those guys. Like, we're good, I'm out of here. And that's what I call muscling in. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was something that you kind of just willed yourself to. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen change in your career. Like, you may not have the best car, you may not have everything going for you, you may not even be qualifying great, but you're still able to pull out a victory, a muscle of victory out. How's that? Is that just racecraft, being a veteran, or where does that come from?
Yeah, I guess, it's just getting, especially if you're qualified mid-pack, like just capitalizing on other people's mistakes, not making your own mistakes in the first 5 minutes. And then, if you can do that, you'll most likely find yourself up in the top three. And then if you can maintain that, then you never know what's going to happen. I mean, like the Nationals this year, Mason damn near lapped me in the semi. And then I came back and, put a harder tire on. My car was way better in the main, but just basically capitalized on people's mistakes, and found myself in the lead. And, I remember telling myself in that particular situation, like, okay, well, as long as you don't crash, they're not catching you. So they're going to have to push harder, and that's going to make them crash, which is basically what happened. So I just try to coach myself as much as possible. I pay attention to what's going on around me. I keep track of who's running second, who's running third, who's running fourth, how far back they are, and then just basically try to adjust my driving from there, But yeah, I guess I grew up racing on, a little dirt track SRS outdoor. We ran heads up racing, with two-wheel drive mod buggies. There was no IFMAR qualifying. So, I remember I used to start in the back of the pack on purpose just to drive through the field, maybe cut the track, go to the back of the field again, drive back through the field. And I think that's how I learned the racecraft side of things, how to, get through traffic and try to control your own destiny, so to speak. And just being old, a lot of repetition, man. I've got a lot of mains under my belt, a lot of mistakes, and I've tried to learn from them. And yeah, it's worked out sometimes, and sometimes it hasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. How important is having Trudy there in your pits? It seems to be once you two get together, it's like, yeah, there's going to be some victory. There's some magic.
Yeah, I think it's a cherry on top. It's a lot of work gets put in, before the event, and then having a guy you trust, especially down below during the main, is a vital thing. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You're just like, okay, that part's handled. And he's good at watching the cars, because that's a big difference when you're up on the driver's stand watching the car, seeing you can only really feel it. You can't really see what it's doing. So have somebody down at track level being able to see what the car is actually doing. And then we can come back and talk and, I'm saying I feel this. And he's like, no, well, you're feeling that because it's too stiff. It's not rolling at all or whatever, so it's nice to have like somebody that you can trust, give you feedback from like the ground level, basically.
All right. And so I guess also with the Tekno team, it's a lot bigger. You got Wiggins there. I know he's a workhorse testing a lot of stuff. How involved is, say, like Matt, Daniel, and Wiggins in setup wise? Do you guys confer a lot, or do you kind of go on do your own thing?
Well, Matt and Danny are pretty good about just letting us do our thing.
Okay.
We'll, after an event, we'll do like a meeting, like a Skype meeting, and kind of go through what we did, and they'll say if they were at the event, they'll tell us what they saw. But at the event, they're pretty, they just give us our space, let us do our thing. They're paying us to be there and do our job, so they're going to let us do our job. And then Wiggins and I, we talk all the time. He's a beast when it comes to track time. I mean, he's probably ran since the world's like, I don't even know, probably 6 to 10 gallons of fuel.
He's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I raced some sprint car and I went to the track one day, and like just, it's been hot here. So it's, it's been tough. And every few days he calls me, he's like, man, I ran like 17 hours a day and I tried this and I tried that. I'm like, dude, you're the man. So, but yeah, so we talk a lot about setup. We bounce things off of each other. Most of the time we're pretty close. Obviously 2 different driving styles. So some things will be a little different on the car. But yeah, it's a great team. I mean, that was one of the best things at Worlds is we had a lot of guys and we obviously weren't really figuring it out great, but everybody was working together really good, and a lot of information was flowing around, and it's definitely a good team vibe, and they've done a really good job with that.
Yeah, we'll touch on the Worlds a little bit later. Let's talk about Rouna, very important in your race program. You've been with him from the very start. I know, like I watched him. I've been to enough events. He's up there. Like every time you're hitting the track, he's watching your car. How much input does he have on you at a race day? I mean, tire wise, obviously, but yeah, talk a little bit about Rouna and his role.
I mean, yeah, he'll pop in and if he doesn't like the way the car looks, he'll tell me. He might not always know exactly like what part is causing the problem or whatever, but he's just like, hey, this one section of the track, your car looks like X and it should look like Y, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, like that's good information. Or, but I mean, the tire stuff, again, I walk up and go, hey, I want to try this. And he's like, okay, whatever, try it, and then if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, he'll tell me. But he's good with that. He's good with all the guys, he makes sure that, and Paul, when Paul's at the races, Paul Wynn, like, he'll take note of what everybody ran that round and let everybody know. And hey, somebody tried this. It was pretty decent, blah, blah, blah. So even, within the J Concepts group, there's a lot of information flowing around. And then, Jason and I talk on a weekly basis, if not more than, one or 2 times a week, and just kind of bullshit about stuff. You know what I mean? Like if there's something dumb on the Facebook, talk about that.
Something dumb said on this podcast.
Yeah, whatever, just talk about what's coming up next, and discuss things he's thinking of, things I'm thinking of, and just it's been a good friendship for a long time, and I've been proud to be a part of that company from
huge.
Now it's big, and I started with him when he was just making bodies in his garage, and he's obviously grown it into something pretty damn good. And he's extremely dedicated to this stuff. This is what he does. He loves it. He loves watching his guys drive his products and making them look good. Just overall good situation.
Yeah, I went back and looked at what podcast he was on. He was on episode 14 because I interviewed him before you. And even from then, but that was almost 5 years ago. Even from then, I think even Proline and AKA was still like something in RC at that point. I don't
they were big. They were.
Yeah, I don't think that J Concept was still the number one tire at that point. I still think like Drake and everybody was still at Proline during that time. And like to see where J Concepts is now. I remember when JQ and I went to visit him, he was like, yeah, I'm not too worried. This was 2017. He wasn't too worried about getting over to the West Coast yet. And now look, he's got West Coast. Now is Europe, Australia's huge for him, South America. J Concepts like one of the biggest companies in RC. And they put a lot of money back into it, sponsoring events and all that stuff.
Well, a lot of money back into making it better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of tires that, like that people will never see, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or bodies or ideas for parts or whatever. He'll, make it's costs a ton of money to do that kind of stuff. And it just gets it and goes, I don't like this. You know what I mean? And just keeps, that's just the thing. They're just like Tekno. They're always making something new. They're always trying to get the next thing ready to put to market. And that's how you grow the company. And to be honest, both the companies are pretty similar in one particular fact is they're privately owned.
Mm-hmm.
Like Danny owns the company, Jason owns J Concepts, so they make the decisions. They're the passion behind it and they're the drive behind it. And that's what's made them, sustain and continue to grow for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get Daniel on her too. I got to convince him. All right, let's move on. Life and family.
Yeah.
I know this is important for you. We've talked before. You're older. We have 2 children. I think we have children like almost the same age. I think my son's a little older. One child's good. It's easy. But when that second one comes, life gets complicated.
Yeah, especially, so my son's 6, Kason, and my daughter's 3, Cashlyn. And just having Kason, he tricked us because he was like a super good baby.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, hell, we can have 5 more of these. It's easy. And then so we went for 2, and she came out, and we were like, can we sell one? Like,
yeah, I know how you feel. I know how you feel, dude.
Yeah, so she was pretty gnarly as a baby, and but we got through the infant stage, and now it's good because they're close enough in age to where now they just keep each other company, and they'll go fight in the backyard, and basically. So yeah, I definitely don't want more than 2, but I'm glad we had 2 because it's definitely more work for us. But now, like I said, they're like best friends. They play all day. If one's at school and the other one's here, you can just tell. They're sad, like, when's Sissy coming home or whatever. So that's good. And that makes it more fun for sure.
How do they handle you traveling and all that stuff?
Kind of the pretty good, like I try not to, it seems like if I tell them the day before, or the couple days before, the more time they know I'm about to leave, the worse it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I just if it's just a normal, like kind of Thursday to Monday race, I just really don't even say anything. I'll just leave, and they wake up and they'll just, like my wife always says, they just get up like, where's daddy? Oh, he went to work. And they just go, okay, whatever. But if I tell them the night before, then they kind of get sad, and, I'd rather but for Spain, my son was just like, when do you leave? How long are you going to be gone? And I was like, oh man, now that he's getting older, this might, it's going to start getting a little tougher. You know what I mean? But
yeah, my daughter, she's fine. And then like the day before I leave, and if I'm leaving where she sees me, she makes a lot of noise. But I'm like, I can buy you something, and I'm not there. So it's a rough deal. Like, I think people don't understand, and especially when you was running 10 scale, you was on the road so much more, and I may not be obviously I probably haven't traveled as much as you, but in the last year I've traveled quite a lot, and I spend weeks away sometimes. Yeah. It's very difficult. Lots of sacrifice.
I feel fortunate because I do travel for my work, but I also come home and I'm just at home, like working in my garage. So, it's good. I like that part. When I'm home, and they have plenty of access to me, but I am gone, and it was more difficult when I did race 10 scale, but I want to plan. I'm going to plan to start racing some more 10 scale. I think it's important, to the driving ability and just putting yourself in different scenarios and seeing different conditions, and just kind of keeping you on your toes a little more. And so yeah, I'm probably not going to do the full tour, like the whole 10 or 12 races that you could do in 10 scale, but I would like to try to get to 5 or 6.
Okay. I remember you said at Wicked that you think that you love carpet racing. You love 10 scale carpet racing.
I did when it like first started, like before. I've been pretty good at like picking up newer stuff and adapting to it faster than other people. So like when carpets first started kind of becoming a thing, I could go to a carpet race and, do really well. You know what I mean? And like get the car working and, get the driving. And now that stuff is so fast and the cars are so precise. It's damn near getting to the point where, right now you're basically running carpet cars on dirt. And it's like, it's almost getting to the point where, well, you need to just have carpet cars, like fully, designed, ready, carpet only cars, because the speed and.
You mean just redesign them all together? Like
that's what I mean is like, they just need to be like, there just needs to be dirt cars and carpet cars because it's just so much different and so fast. Like I haven't been to a carpet race in a couple of years, but I'm watching like the Euros on the computer and I'm like, damn, they are.
That was a very fast, boring layout though. Like
but I mean, just the amount of horsepower they're running now, like, we would run like a 6.5, 5.5 maybe, and it's like they're running like 4.5s, 4.0s. I'm like, holy crap, this is a touring car, so it's pretty nice.
You did. I think we talked. You said that you think carpet is the future. It's dirt's kind of getting. Well, we've seen a lot of dirt tracks close, right? I'm a big proponent of carpet Astro. It's just more viable, more sustainable because you can have semi-permanent tracks like they do in Europe. But I just don't think dirt's sustainable anymore. Yes, there will be some holdouts and there will be some tracks that are dirt only.
I mean, as far as a business goes, like if say you want to open a track, like and it needs to be a business, and you need a few things to make it successful. You need it to be indoors. You need it, or at least have a roof over it. You need a hobby shop that sells a lot of stuff, and then and you know how expensive it is to bring a bunch of dirt into a building and like kind of loop, all the hoops and stuff you'd have to jump through to do that. So like, just throw a carpet track down and then boom, you're racing, so
absolutely.
That's why I think it's, I mean, I love dirt. Dirt 10 scale is in a precarious spot right now. I think the reason it's so high grip now is because we're running carpet cars on dirt, so the cars have to have the track has to have a ton of traction for the car to function correctly. And then if the track doesn't have a lot of grip, people don't want to run on it because their cars don't make any traction. So it's just kind of weird. Like, that's what I mean. It's like, there needs to be carpet cars and there needs to be dirt cars and like some rules for dirt. The motor can't be so far away from the diff or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would make dirt racing more fun. You know what I mean? And like better and easier on everybody. But, these companies don't want to have all these different cars. They just want to make one and it works everywhere or kind of works everywhere. And I think that's the biggest problem with dirt right now is it makes the tracks really have to focus on their prep and, what they're doing. And if they don't, then people are going to come there and complain. They're not going to come back,
What do you think of the Worlds track? Are you trying to go to the Worlds next year? Spencer just came from there.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, that to me it looks fun. It looks like kind of old school off-road, you could see, I watched, a lot of the coverage over there. Obviously Spencer was there, so I wanted to see how he was doing, but seeing the track change, if they, the round one was always like pretty wet from just the moisture in the air. And then round two, it's a little drier. So, that's, cool to see that, you're going to have to drive differently from round to round. And, you can't just be as a robot, like basically some of the stuff, if you're just a robot and you can hit your mark every single lap, you're probably going to do pretty damn well. If you have to adjust your line nowadays in dirt, you're probably going to crash. But that Worlds track looks like you're going to have to drive the hell out of that thing and choose lines, look for traction, create traction. And that's looks cool. I want to go for sure.
Okay. I'm going to segue this into another thing we talked about. And that was, this is a big topic always. Spec tires at a nationals level, a European Euros level, and a Worlds level. You told me you think this is the fairest way to race in RC. There's a big pushback on Spec tire in 1/8 scale. Obviously, we just saw the whole thing with the tire nonsense at the Worlds, and then of course also to say in proponent of Spec tire, the 40 plus Euros had a Spec tire for for the first time this year. The Euro Bs is going to have a Spec tire next year, and the people that attended loved it. I want to say first, tell me why you are a big proponent of Spec tires, and then I want you to make that argument to say a tire brand who probably isn't or probably doesn't think. I know some tire brands are for it because it saves them money too.
Yeah, well, I've always loved races that have a Spec tire, like the Reedy Race of Champions, always a Spec tire. They had Tire Tech. So, for the most part, you knew you were just trying to outdrive the guy next to you or trying to outset up, get the car better. And that's what I like about it. It just takes the component away. And I think it's only appropriate for major titles, because, say the world, say like, let's use Australia, for example, next year. Like if that wasn't a Spec tire on that condition, that track, ever-changing conditions, potential with wet and dry and blah, blah, blah. Like, first of all, the amount of tires that the tire companies would have to send over there, for the, just in case, the kind of the oh shit factor, is astronomically expensive. You know what I mean? And then there's guys that could just throw on a different set of tires and pick up seconds a lap. And, it just muddies the waters a lot. You're trying to crown a champion, and I think it should be simplified, and just eliminate that, because tires are massively important, obviously. The downside to it is that, these tire companies obviously spend a ton of time and money developing these tires, and they want to have that crown jewel, like win, like a world championship, to put on their resume or put on their mantle. You know what I mean? Like it. So if it is a Spec tire, but you could say like, oh, the Spec tire was, like in Finland 2011, I'm pretty sure it was all J Concepts. So like technically J Concepts has won a world championship, but that doesn't really count. You know what I mean? Like they're all, it's a Spec tire. You had to run them. So it's, yeah. And I the biggest thing is I just think it makes it a better race. It makes it more fair for the whole field. It would bring, costs down. It might cost the individual driver more, because then you'd have to buy, those tires when you get to the event. You're not allowed to just bring all your free stuff that you probably get. But I don't know. I think it would just potentially make it easier and better racing.
Do you think that? So I'll take for instance, I mentioned this to Nicola from Hot Racing. He's like, no.
Yeah.
But he's talking from an experience coming from on-road, where he saw maybe one tire always getting a contract for that, right? And so maybe his experience from on-road is not equivalent to off-road. I also understand the fact of, I like the tire war to an extent, but I mean, I've also seen Spec tire. I think Spec tire should be also, you should have a Spec quantity as well. You shouldn't be able to buy as many as you want. So everybody should be allowed a certain amount. And then if you make the final, obviously you can have a new set. I think everybody's eligible for a new set, or say you make the semis or whatever. How about this? How about if it's Spec? Because okay, let's break the worlds down a little bit. We're gonna get into series and all that stuff, and right after this. What if it's the top 25? Okay, how much goes? It's 6. How many go into the semi? 32.
Yeah.
So
something like that.
Let's say the top 30 of these guys are the pro level. They run open tire. I know that takes away the fitness side. How about if the bottom level all run Spec tire? So we have a separation of pro and Joe to an extent. I'm just thinking about this. I've been thinking about it for a while. Yes, you don't get the fitness side, but less money spent by tire companies bringing over, because containers of tires.
I mean, yeah, that wouldn't work. I mean, it would have to be different classes. You know what I mean? It'd have to be like a Spec tire class or whatever, because, there's no way, people that go to the worlds that are in the bottom half, they don't go there thinking they're going to be in the bottom half. You know what I mean?
Know that. I know.
So it takes probably half the event to realize like, oh man, I guess I'm the bottom half of this event. You know what I mean? So if you tell them that you're the bottom half, you have to run this spec tire.
I know it's kind of
It would
insulting.
just piss people off. You know what I mean? Like
it's
so.
You are right though. People come to the world with this like dream. They're gonna have this great privateer dream. And you might do well, but you have to be very realistic about World Championships, Nationals, and Euros. You have to be very realistic about it, especially having done a race like that. Let's talk about that because you're also. We've talked about this before. You're a big proponent of having a series of races. When Wheel and Trigger, you said a series of races using existing races. Now, I did something similar to that with you back in 2021. With a virtual series. I'm also doing it this year. And I don't know, you might be in the lead. I can't remember. I have to check the points. The last race will be AMS. And then also, I loved your idea. I've been saying it for a while. Getting Roar to start working with some of these bigger race promoters, right? Doing tech, doing referee jobs, having a membership push there, all this type of stuff. This is stuff I would love to see Roar doing. And it don't have to be every race, but it could be like a DNC, a PMB. We know these races are going to be big. Let's pick a certain amount of races. So this year I picked SIC, DNC, PMB, Silver State, Nationals, Wicked Weekend, and AMS for you guys. I think it was right. I love having a series. I don't want me to tell who the best driver is via an algorithm, right? No offense to top 25. I like what that does. It's fun, but I want to know who's going to be the top driver after points, after races and stuff like that. The problem is we need to get you guys to agree to go to certain races, and we need to get the Europeans to agree to come to certain races, and then we need to push that. And that would also include you guys going over to at least a European round.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you could do it, including the Euro, the European side too. Like, I think you just have to do it like in Europe and then in America, and then you meet at the Worlds, and that's
a good plan too.
You know what I mean? How you kind of like figure it out because, but in the US, I mean, we have I would say almost everybody goes to SIC, DNC, Silver State, PMB. You could come up with 5 races, and if everybody knows that this is part of this grand champion at the end of the year, obviously all these events would still crown a winner at the end of the weekend. And then, but it would make it. I think it would be cool if Roar did it that way, and then we go to the Roar Nationals, and that's like the final race.
That would be fun.
You know what I mean? Like, and you're going in there with like, oh man, Dakotah has a 1-point lead over Mason Fuller and 1 point over Mayfield or whatever. Like it would have so much more excitement, you know what I mean? To like, and then maybe that race is double points or some shit. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you could do it, but it would just take the thing is just like, why would these promoters care? You know what I mean? Like we want to see it because I don't like that our nationals and our world championships are just based off of one race. You know what I mean? Cause like, who the hell knows what's going to happen? Like the A-Scale Worlds, like it's every 2 years. It's the biggest thing you can win. And you go there and say you TQ every single round. You're leading the main 3 minutes from the end. Your servo goes out. You know what I mean? It's like, well, shit, there goes 2 years. But if it was a point series, like you potentially can still be a world champion if you have a problem at that one event. You know what I agree. Mean? So but like, again, why would the promoters care? They're all individual events. You know what I mean? They're not going to spend any more money to do this.
They don't have to spend any money. They don't have to spend any money.
Right.
I think we have to build it up and make it prestigious, right? And then
but somebody has to officiate this, though. It's like it would have to.
Yeah, I agree. Roar has to come and do it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, why would Joey want to give Roar any money to come to his event?
No, they don't. Roar needs to come out of their coffers and do this. They need to look at it as PR, right? Yeah. We're going to go to these races. We're going to send 2 people there. They're going to do, I don't know. Joey has tech, right? I don't know if he tech every single car. Like this is the hard problem.
That's the thing is I don't think you change the premise of the race or like the way the race is ran. Just, if there's a Roar official there that just, you have to be a Roar member maybe to compete. I mean, I don't know. That might make people.
Yeah, make it. So Roar makes their money by having a membership drive there.
Yeah.
Maybe
like, there's 1,000 people at DNC. Roar just made, what's $50 times 1,000. But, that might deter people from coming to Joey's race.
I know it's like a double-edged sword. How do we
like
fix
Joey would be like, well, hey, I want some of that money. You know what I mean? Like,
he would.
You're getting it from my event, so
I don't know. I'm just thinking of ways that we can make this, but I definitely think it's going to be a virtual. This is why, because to make a race in America right now would be crazy. It's no dates, everything's taken up. You guys are slammed, and then you got to compete with so many other races that want to be big races. Everybody wants to be a big race, but there are only a few. Well, let's put it. There are 7 big races a year, pretty much big American races. That would be DNC, PNB, Silver State, Nationals. I would say Wicked Weekend's one of them, and AMS is one of them, and SIC, because those are the main races that people go to.
Yeah,
I think we could do it in America, no problem. But we have to do it virtually, and we kind of have to build up the hill prestige around the cup. I was an idiot. I did it, got up damn trophy, made drove 600 miles to pick it up, gave it to you, took it back from you, and rusted to pieces after that. Actually, I gave part of it away. But the concept is there. I think so. I think the harder part would be in Europe, because they actually don't have as many races that everybody gets together as you guys. Like Montpellier is kind of one of them. Maybe a Reg GP, obviously a Euros, but they need a couple of more races. Like Buggyland could be one, IBC. But they kind of not everybody goes. The USA market has everybody going to the races.
Yeah,
pretty much all the top drivers. In Europe, you don't get that. All right, well, let's segue into that. When are we gonna see? Maybe I know this comes down to cost, and I get it, and price and time. When are we gonna see maybe you guys go over to Europe? If you're a young Mason Fuller, do you tell him go over to Europe for 2 months and practice and live in Spain and drive over there with Canas for a little bit?
No, I mean, I think the biggest. We did used to go to Europe. Obviously for England, in England, we used to go to the Neo Buggy every year. And I used to do Montpellier, and I went to Padova, I think, twice. And basically what the holdup is, I think Buggyland isn't this way. Like, they make a new track every time. But when you go to these events, the track's been there. Most of the time, the track's been there for a long ass time. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have so many laps on that track we get there, or that event, we're there for that one specific event. You get 3-4 practice runs, maybe. We're only running the one car. And then you go racing. So it's like every time I've been to Montpellier or like Padova or whatever, it's like, or even the Worlds at Spain. It's like we throw my car down for the first time, guys from the US, and we're literally 3 to 5 seconds a lap off the pace.
Those are 3 very hard European races, though.
I understand, but I'm saying, like, in any of these permanent tracks, it's like these guys have so many laps. There's no time to try to get, accustomed to them. So at least, and I understand their tracks are way different than the US. They come over here and do exceptionally well, obviously, but our tracks aren't as crazy when it comes to car setup, driving style. If you're a really good driver, you can come over here to AMS. It's like, okay, nobody's been on this track yet. And the track just develops throughout the week equally for everybody. It starts out pretty slow and slimy, and then it just slowly starts getting better. You know what I mean? And everybody's learning the track together with the same amount of laps on it. So that's what's tough, is going over to Europe. It would take somebody like, a younger kid, if they want to start being really fast in Europe on those specific tracks, you would need to go over there and live there for a month and go to all these different tracks and, get the car right. Cause it's a totally different car, like as far as settings go, I think the heaviest diff oil I run typically is like maybe 20,000. And we're at the Worlds playing with 100,000, 150,000, it's crazy. You know what I mean? How much different it is. So I think that's really why it's tough to go over there and compete, because the tracks are just so much different.
Yeah. Sure. So for those who don't know, Neo was a one-off race. It was Indoor Worlds, it was called. It was awesome. It's not available more. It came back one year. Montpellier, by the way, is one of probably the most difficult races in the world. And there are people that are just good there, Yeah. Like when I saw Lutz was the last American to go there, and he was in the quarters and he didn't make it out. And they're like, one of the guys from Portugal, Duras, who I'll never forget, just kind of kicked his ass. And I'm just like, no, he's faster. He's been there. He has the tires. I get that. And you know what? There are drivers. That's why it goes back to what I was saying about even the European drivers don't like to go to these races because the tracks don't change as well. You know, they'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And so I get that. Buggyland, he does change the track. I know like IBC wants to get you guys over. That's going to be where the e-buggy worlds is next year. I'm hoping that you guys come over and be a part of that. That would be great. Somebody wants to be the first e-buggy world champion. And I think you'll like it out there in Portugal where it is. It's very nice out there. But that's a great Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I would like to go, you know what I mean? I'm not, it's not a deterrent, you know what I mean? But it is tough. Like you just listed all these races we're already doing. So to throw a European trip in there, it's,
and that's a 10-day trip.
Yeah, right. It's just
pretty much,
especially for Worlds is super long. Like
too long, freaking long.
Yeah,
too long. Let's talk about that. It was too long. Like 3 practice sessions a day. That it was. I think the Worlds is too long. It could be done in like 4 days, 3 days at the most. But
we could sit here and talk in circles about what they could do, but it's like there definitely doesn't need to be that many entries for a world championship. You know, like.
Well, no, it doesn't. But I know that's how they make their money. I know, and I agree with you that the tracks that hold these type of events, like the people that put them on, they like the Baldo brothers. They don't make no. I can't believe they make any money at this race.
I mean, they might make money off concession stands sales and fuel sales, maybe. But I mean, from the race, I doubt it. You know,
look how much money they spent on that race.
Yeah. Right.
2 times.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah. Same internationals. I think people who have never been to a Worlds don't understand it takes more than just a track. It's an actual facility. But let's talk about the Worlds and the track. Okay, let's tackle that. It was it was different, but it was the same. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about it. Not the big drastic changes that I thought they would do, but enough changes that made the track different. And I think the biggest thing for you guys was the surface that really caught a lot of yourself and the American guys off guard, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it was, well, what was funny is while I was there, I was like, man, this doesn't feel a lot different. So like I looked up on, you know, I was kind of dumbfounded how off I was, you know, I'm like, what the hell changed? You know what I mean? I got pretty close last time. So I looked up some video of like the previous Worlds and the layout was way slower and a lot more technical. And I went, okay, so this is just a lot more car-based. It's a lot more repetition driving style. It was imperative to have your power and clutch stuff correct. I mean, it was just as on-road as I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like when we're running ride heights down in the 16s and diff oils through the moon and, you know, it was gnarly. I mean, it was the track was fun to drive on. It was just exceptionally hard to do it at the pace that some of those guys were doing it, you know, like, and it is what it is. You know, we went there, I left it all on the table. I went to bed tired and frustrated every night. We tried everything, you know what I mean? And just kind of never found it. And I think most of it was probably just never drove correctly. You know what I mean? Like never got my throttle pickup points, my brake input points, just all that stuff was so crazy important, and it was very hard to figure it out. So, I mean, I commend those dudes that are fast there. You know, they obviously had a lot more time, you know, not on that particular layout, but at that facility. I mean, I know, you know, Canas was over there for like 2 weeks and Ongaro a week, and, you know, Yao had been there a lot, you know, all those guys, you know, they have that opportunity. We had the opportunity to do it too. You know, obviously we could have went over there and ran before the event, but you know, that's, you know, a $5,000 to $7,000 trip. You know what I mean? So
do you think, I think also that you felt that the prior Worlds was sufficient. Like you had learned enough I mean, I thought that I had you winning this on my top 3, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, but that was the biggest mistake we made, was just assuming like, okay, we know a little bit from last time. We know what last time was like. But where we, you know, fucked up was that these guys had 2 more years on those surfaces to hone in their car settings and their driving ability. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they got faster.
They got faster. And all
Yeah.
we did was just ran it home on loose, rough tracks, and never put time in on that scenario. We don't have there is literally nothing in the US that comes close to replicating the speed and the grip level of that track.
People don't know till they've driven on. I didn't drive on it, but I watched enough laps. And you would see, like, I would watch your car and I'm like, man, he looks good. And then they'd be like,
2 seconds off.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. And I think it was kind of similar in the Worlds the previous year. If I remember, you was on the back foot, but you came forward. Obviously, and you made the final. And I think we was just waiting for that. And I think that was like the biggest thing that stunned people. I mean, as a racer, how do you overcome that? Is it just something you have to put behind you?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Honestly, I knew, after probably halfway through the event, I'm like, shit, this is, everybody's, getting better every round. And then like, I basically hit a ceiling, you know what I mean? And it was like, I can't go much faster than this. And if, I remember Bruno was in my qualifiers and it's like, he'd come up to, I'd have to let him go. And if I could hang on to him for a couple laps, and that would always be my best laps, like when I was chasing somebody that was going fast. So then I was like, basically, I don't know how to drive out here while I'm by myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where, how hard to drive it into the corner, when to pick up the gas, blah, blah, blah. You
need somebody to pace yourself off of.
Yeah. And it's like, that's just like basically not knowing, not having track time, not understanding what your car needs, what you need to do. It was just, it was kind of a bummer. And then, you start these mains, I had to start in the quarters. I made it to the semi, and, the quarters, I just kind of drove around and got, just capitalized on people's mistakes, like I said, and kind of barely made it out of the quarters. And then I knew going into the semis, I looked at the list of people. I'm like, oh, shit. I need a few guys that have big problems in this one, and because you can't pass, there was nowhere to pass. So, unless you were just outright way faster than the dude you were behind, you couldn't pass anybody. You'd have to wait for a mistake. And at that level, you get to the semis and then the main, nobody made a mistake. You know what I mean? Like, the pass for the lead in the main was Canas flipping over.
I know.
And then Ongaro was gone. That's it. That's the only pass that happened the whole time. It was that somebody made a mistake. You know what I mean? That was it. So, and that's just kind of what that racing creates. It's just, it makes every little detail super, super important. And you eventually just run out of details. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically what happened to us. I was just like, I don't know what else to do. Everything I do, I just run this mediocre 49-second lap. Like, I can't get this car any faster, and then Yao was going great with our car, but you watch him drive and he's like, oh, he's driving so much different.
He has a glue track just like that. Same traction. Yeah. I talked to him about it.
Yeah. Our car was capable of going good. It's just, I wasn't able to find what I needed, to do it, so it was just crazy, man. It was hard. And like I said, the track was faster, and that was, when I watched the video from the year before, the 2 years before, I kind of forgot how many more jumps and 180 corners and slower sections there were. It was a lot different before.
Yeah. Did you and JQ had a very boisterous conversation? Did you learn anything from him, or did you just want to smack him?
No, he's fine. I mean, he opened his mouth earlier in the week and on Facebook and was like, oh, I know exactly what's wrong with Mayfield's car. And I'm like, of course he does. He knows everything. And so I sent Wiggins over there. I'm like, well, go ask that guy. Let's see if he wants to cough.
I heard you guys sent Wiggins over there.
Yeah. So he came back. He's like, he doesn't want to tell us. So then afterwards, he's like, I'll tell you if you buy one of my books. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll buy one of your dumb books. I'm curious what what's this holy grail setting that we missed, because we touched everything on the car. You know what I mean? There wasn't a single part that didn't get looked at, changed, adjusted, whatever. So, he comes over and he basically gave me like one thing that I didn't go far. Like, he was like, oh, you have too much up travel. And I'm like, that's what this was? Like, this whole time?
I remember that discussion.
Like, we did take up travel out of the car. I didn't like it. I took it back out, so it was just funny,
I think Joao was so fast. As one, I talked to him. He said, so IBC, his track, B Buggy Arena is glue, completely sealed. And it's very high traction, just like that. He says, look, Keenan, this track is the same traction as my track, but it's faster. It's way faster. So that's making it harder. And it was interesting. All right. Man, let's touch on the Europeans. Who besides Ongaro, we're going to touch on him. Who was impressive to you from Europeans? That probably wasn't impressive the year before, the Worlds before.
I don't know. It was basically the same podium as last time.
But I mean, all right. I'm talking about like they have a lot of fast up and coming young racers there in Europe.
Yeah.
And Parentes, you got the Tekno has the Parentes. They're very good.
Yep.
Spain, Italy are producing some fast racers out there. Of course, we have the Killick brothers who are still young over there as well. And of course, we have our American fast guys like Little Bump, Phi Long, Mason Fuller, Brandon Rose, who all kind of were I thought they would be an exception. Rose was very fast too. Yeah. Brandon Rose and Little Bump were very fast. They just didn't make the final. This is my question. Here's a better question. I feel that these young drivers on the next what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you came into this, the
next generation.
Yeah, not the next generation, but the next level of racing. Like you guys went through it. You came through.
I get
you came through maybe when you started turning your wheels was something, in the air.
Yeah, now, I don't think it's gonna happen necessarily that way. Like when I, I guess my generation was like me, Cavalieri, Tebow. You know what I mean? Kind of.
Right, but you guys adapted. You have adapted over the years because we saw
we also brought
a different type of driving too.
We brought a different level of speed to like A scale. Because like kind of like how it is now. Back then, the A scale guys didn't race 10 scale and vice versa. But Jared and Ryan and myself and a lot of people, Truey, like we raced 10 scale the majority of the time. And then when we went to A scale, the cars were so much easier to drive. We could just go drive the shit out of these things and like be seconds a lot faster than the top pro A scale guys. You know what I mean? But we had to learn how to keep the cars together and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think this younger generation of drivers is just going to completely outdrive us and, throw the older generation, as far as lap time wise goes. It obviously happened to me at the Worlds. But that was a different surface. You know what I mean? Like
I don't mean that. I mean, they're on that. They're developing their own driving. Okay. This is what I mean. Like when you first started coming along, scrubbing and all that there was not really a thing. Yeah. Over the years, scrubbing and all that stuff. Just like in motocross, riding styles change, right? And develop. I think that these young guys, the Killicks, the Mason Fullers, those young guys in Spain, they're on that. They don't know it, but they're on that evolution. That's the next evolution of driving style. It doesn't have to be like where you guys can't beat them, but they're going to be doing things with these cars that are going to demand these cars to have different things eventually. Does that make sense?
I think yes and no. I mean, it depends on the surface, like, so like at the Worlds, like there was really only one way to drive out there. You know what I mean? Like, and if you watch like Ongaro, like his driving on that track will put you to sleep. It's the most boring thing you've ever seen. Like it's not that it's not impressive because he can hit the marks every single lap. Like his car is within half an inch every lap in every corner of what it was the previous lap. But like, there's no judgment of pace. Like you watch him and you're just like, man, this is boring. You know what I mean? And then you look at his lap times, you're like, holy shit, that was a 30.
I mean, he don't make mistakes.
Yeah, there was a 47 flat. And then, you watch the Killicks brothers and they're wide open, wild, and they're running, a little slower. And Canas is somewhere in between, you know what I mean? And then like here, Brandon Rose drives the shit out of his car, and it looks like most of the time, and when it looks like he's going fast, he's going fast. But then Mason's kind of like Ongaro to where, Mason looks like he's just creeping around the track, but he's throwing down the fastest laps. You know what I mean? So I don't think that none of them are driving the same. You know what I mean? They're all driving differently to create speed. And I don't think you're going to see like you said, all of a sudden we're, jumping different jumps. All the tracks are too damn similar. You know what I mean? there's not layouts anymore to where you can really be like, oh, I'm way faster than you just through this jump section. You know what I mean?
Do you think America needs more layouts like that, like more corner speed and less supercrossy?
Well, we need them to be more. They need to be more difficult. Like our tracks are too easy. But it's because it's not. People aren't interested in
working hard.
Yeah, challenging themselves. They're interested in trying to earn a trophy. You know what I mean?
Yes, so, I agree. That's society in general.
Yeah. So it's like if you make the track too hard to where the pro guys are like, hell yeah, this is like making me have to think, then the guys that are there paying their way to be there, they're going to just be pissed off. And they're going to be on the internet talking crap. You know what I mean? So
like Masters track last year.
Well, yeah, that one was gnarly. I mean, it was fun, but damn, that was a gnarly one for sure.
It was hard.
But that was also some of my best 10 skill results. I'm like, oh, here we go. See, it's difficult. I can get through this shit, you know.
It was gnarly. Mini 8 skill track. What about TireGate, dude? What about Matrix and what they did at the Worlds? What do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, at the time it was obviously a pretty big deal because, you know, everybody. The problem is the rule was just so vague. You know what I mean? Like as a tire manufacturer, when you're making tires, like you see this rule and there's just this number, but it doesn't say, is it the carcass have to be that? Is it the pin? Is it before the event? Is it after the event? You know, there's no description. So, and then what made it so much crazier was that we're running on a track that just completely destroyed tires. Obviously, you saw after the hour-long race, there was, you know, half the field, their tires were basically failing because they got so thin. So yeah, basically Matrix wanted to enforce the rule their way and other people wanted the rule to be enforced the opposite way. And then it came down to the people in charge. And what I thought was funny is it seemed like everybody was on the same page except one official that kept trying to like lean towards Matrix side. And I was like, well, maybe a little bag of money had been exchanged.
You're saying what we couldn't say. You're saying what we couldn't say.
Right. And I'm like, so then, you know, I really applaud the Baldo brothers' dad. I mean, he's like, look, you guys are making my race look stupid on the internet over this dumb thing, you know, and if you don't change it, I'm going to shut this place down. You guys can get the hell out of here. And I was like, oh shit, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden they just tech the tires like they did. I mean, at the Nationals, we tech the tires before the main because tire wear was a concern. You know, they did it at the European Championship. Like there wasn't even a tire gauge at the last Worlds at that same track. You know, so like this has never been a conversation until this year. And I mean, guess what? Matrix still won.
They still won. I mean?
Like
it you know what I think? You know what I think they did? I think, you know, man, Canas came out and he fucking I think it was Q6. And he just went out there and fuck. Like, I was like, God damn, he has won the Worlds.
Yeah.
You know, in my brain, he had won the Worlds. I think Matrix just pulled that out just to fucking frazzle people. That's what I think.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't know. What was funny about it is I was pretty vocal and like running around, you know, with the tire rules and like talking to people and getting the roar guy involved and whatever. Like, but Jason didn't give a shit. You know, like Jason, not that he didn't care. He was just like, he's smart enough to just go like, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens.
They how it all unravels.
Yeah. And if we have to do something dumb, then we'll do something dumb, you know, like as far as like making some sort of adjustment. I mean, at one point they were telling us that like, well, if you have to change tires during the main, you have to change tires during the main. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? Like we've never had to change tires during a main. You know?
I know. I was like, make a mandatory tire change. Everybody has to change.
It was just funny how like there's rules in place, but they're very vague. And then they were deciding to enforce them that suited them best, you know, and that was the frustrating part. So,
I'm gonna leave it on the road on the Worlds. Thoughts on Ongaro, man, as a driver, 4-time world champion, 3-time back-to-back world champion in 8 scale.
Yeah, I mean,
is he the best in the world?
Well, obviously, you know what I mean. Like you know, when he goes to Buggy Land and wins both classes too, you know,
he's just like kicked ass.
Yeah, I mean, his I I mean, his dedication to the craft, you know, I don't know him that well. I've talked to him a couple times. Like, I spent quite a bit of time with him and his mechanic at the Worlds in Hobby Action, and they were cool. But they're, he's shit, man. I don't even know how else to say it. He's just a hell of a driver. You know what I mean? Like, you put him in those tracks that just take, robot type repetitiveness, and he's the best at that. Like, he knows what to say to his mechanics or whatever to get the car working. So where he can just hit his marks the same every single lap. He did the same thing at Hobby Action. That track's very similar to that. You have to just hit your marks every single lap. If you don't make a mistake, you start out front, nobody's going to pass you, basically. You know what I mean? And the World's track is very similar. Do
you think he needs to come over to America and win one of these big races? I think he does.
You don't have nothing to prove, man. He's the only guy that's ever won A scale World Championship twice, and now he's done it 3 times.
I know.
There's, people could be cynical and be like, well, it was at the same track. Well, not really. You know what I mean? Like, he still had to finish the race. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't like he barely won. He just fucking smoked everybody.
It was so boring.
Yeah.
It was a boring final.
I mean, what was funny is I'm watching the main, which is weird for me. I've never had to do that before, but I'm watching the lap times, and what was impressive to me was just how, like, consistent, number one. And man, when he wanted to come in for fuel, you knew he was coming in for fuel because he would turn his fastest lap of that stint coming in to get fuel.
Racecraft.
Like, he's like,
racecraft.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm coming into the pits. I'm going to throw down a heater right here just to make sure it's like a faster pit exit also. You know what I mean? Like, just connecting those dots. So that's what that really impressed me, Okay. So, but I don't think he has to come to America. I mean, he's came over here. He raced DNC. He was really competitive.
He's coming. He's coming. Yeah. He said he's coming to some races, and he's going to have to come in 2026. Let's talk. We're gonna finish off with that. 2026 going to be in America. I think it's going to be at Chico or HRCR. Both tracks kind of. Well, when I went to the Nationals, it wasn't kind of blown out. Is this your last Worlds to be competitive in? Do you think? Do you think this is your last chance to win one?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's 2 years away. You know what I mean? Law can change in 2 years, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what the thing is that it's potentially just going to be a high bite race, like it always.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's going to be a blown out track.
No, it's not going to be like Spain, but I mean, it's going to be grippy. You know what I mean? Like, the reason these tracks turn into this is because it's such a long race. Like, they don't want it to fall apart. They want it to stay the same. They don't want to have to maintain it. So like, that's where these chemicals come in and people treat, the track. I mean, we've raced at the Chico track quite a bit. And like, when we ran the World in 10 scale there, and I'm pretty sure even the A scale nationals, the couple times we ran it there, they sugar the track. They put something on the track, you know what I mean? To keep it together, keep it gripped up. I doubt HRCR would do that. I don't think Brian Eider would, if he does get the World, I think he would, that track doesn't blow apart like a Silver State track. It does get some roughness to it, but I would rather see it go to HRCR because the way the track progressed at the Nationals, I just liked that you had to adjust. You had to change your lines. You had to change your car. You had to keep evolving with the racing surface. You know what I mean? So
you also won there. So
yeah, I mean, that always helps, but
giving Tekno their national title, which is great. I know they've been looking for that. I think either of those places would be great venues for the World.
Yeah, I've heard Hutto too, but I mean, that would work for sure. But I mean, that would just might as well sign Ongaro up again. You know what I mean? Like, it would be the same thing. Like, just
I think if he comes to either Chico or Watchable, I think he's going to be good too.
No,
I think he struggles with this like DNC type of. I think Ongaro's struggle maybe not is the track itself. Yes, he does struggle, but I think he struggles with the length of the races in America.
Yeah, I mean,
driving at night and all that stuff.
Yeah, especially DNC, it's freezing ass cold. Like,
I know. Yeah. All right, let's segue into this is something that you brought up on. I keep coming to Wheel and Trick. It was such a fucking good episode. Everybody go over there and watch it. It was great. before we get into that, your future, not your future, but what's going on with you now? We just saw one of your first competitors, which was Tessman, retired this year. Well, going into this year, was you surprised by that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Nothing really surprises me anymore. I mean, I was surprised that I thought he had a lot. I mean, he's a lot younger than me. What was weird was that I watched him come up, from a little kid to winning his first race to being a world champion. And then now he's gone and I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? Like that was what was weird. Like I watched this, kind of happen. But no, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's always been tough for them. They live up in Canada. It's a tough travel situation. You know what I mean? They basically drove. I mean, I couldn't even imagine how many miles they used to drive. You know what I mean? To get down here.
Do you think it was also having to take gourd as well? Do you think maybe a little bit of like the gourd magic kind of wore off that he had when they were really the hot ticket?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe he lost interest because they were so dedicated and just so focused and so serious all the time that like you're just going to get sick of it. You know what I mean? Like you're just going to burn yourself out, So he started a family and, that's a good exit. Like, okay, I want to just focus on my family. I'm going to figure out something else. And, good for him. I mean, I haven't talked to him. I know Adam talks to him. Drake talks to him occasionally and sounds like he's happy and, living it up. So yeah.
He never looked like he was happy at races. Lots of pressure.
They were serious, man. They were the most intense. Gord, he was extremely intense. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it is weird, you know what I mean? Like being at, especially the first couple events, I'm like, man, I feel like somebody's missing here. You know what I mean? But
still a lot of gas left in the tank. Still, yeah. I think they were highly disappointed that X-Ray didn't sign them again.
Yeah,
and they were still counting on that. And I know they went to Mugen, and Mugen said, obviously Mugen can't pay him and Gord.
Yeah,
maybe he's just enjoying like civilian life now. Being a welder.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, I don't know how old he is. Shit, he's still young. It's
30?
like if he got
30.
Yeah, he got a hair up his ass and wanted to do it again. I'm sure he could. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Hey, how long? Epic. One of the most epic moments in RC. Visions Race 2022. You and him loved it. Loved it. How long did it take for you guys to speak after that?
I don't know. Maybe 2 events. I don't know. I mean, maybe longer. I don't remember. Definitely the first few, it was awkward. And just kind of avoided each other. And then, yeah, I don't know. I try to let that kind of shit die out as fast as possible.
Heat of the moment. I think it's good for RC. No, do I say people should put hands on each other? But I think you pushed him. That's about it, right? That's about as as I don't want to see people putting hands on each other. Yeah. Emotions, man. There's money on the line. There's money always on the line.
Yeah,
right.
That's what's always pissing me off about that was that like we always are racing for thousands of dollars. So what the hell was this? You know what I mean? Like you're still not handing you a pile of cash at the end of this. Just like
I loved it.
But
I loved it. Yeah, well, I know you ain't got too much longer, so I want to get into these last things, and I'm gonna let you go because I know you got to go pick up your kids. Fluff is over there waiting for you to patiently stop. You got onto you mentioned something that a lot of drivers don't mention. That was salary. And I'm not going to ask you what your actual salary is, but you said 150 between that and 2, which is great, but it's not the millions that a lot of people think you make. Like people, Ryan Mayfield made $1 million last year. Yeah. You might have, I don't know, but there's a big mystery around driver salaries. Obviously I'm a big silly season fan. I have an idea of what you guys make. I know how you guys make your money. You are one of probably the more higher paid drivers in RC. I know that. But maybe if you could just break it down to our viewers, how you make your money. Obviously there's salaries, there's contingency. Like tell me the difference between, here's a good example. Well, tell me the difference we'll use when you bashed the radio, when you didn't make the semi in 2017. How much money did you lose by not making that final and potentially winning that race?
Yeah, I mean, that was a potential $10,000 loss.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's basically we get paid. The guys that are getting paid, it's your chassis typically, like, your chassis sponsor is typically the biggest, and they typically will take care of the majority of the travel money as well. And then, tires, electronics. If you're lucky enough, your radio can pay you. And yeah, I mean, that's about it. So yeah, basically it's the best thing to do is separate everything.
Right. So each company that you represent, each sticker, each decal on each company on your shirt pays you monthly. It may
be the majority of the stickers. Yes.
Okay. You probably do something for free.
Yeah.
That's which I understand. Yeah. But where you really make your money is on contingency at races. Now, does each company give you a contingency program? And I know each driver negotiates their own chassis. And let's put it this also, I want people to some drivers have various different companies paying for different parts of travel. You know what I mean? Yeah. Also, there's lots of sharing rooms, lots of sharing rides, all that. We aren't, look, you ain't jet setting around in private jets, being picked up by limousines, driving around in fancy cars. It's not sharing hotels, sharing this stuff. It's still very gypsy, but I would say, all right, here's a better question. What's the highest paying contingency race on your schedule?
Well, so like currently the way typically in the past, it'd be the World Championship.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So currently the way Tekno does it is that basically they put a bounty on all the top 25 guys' head.
Really?
So the more top 25 guys that are there, the more valuable that race is.
Basically.
Gotcha. So what's good about it is that like basically any event I go to, as long as there's a few dudes there, there's contingency available there. It's like there's not a list of races for them. There's just
got you. They just base it off the top 25.
Right. Okay. There's 4 guys at this event. You win. Okay, that's X amount of money. You know what I mean? Okay. So, which is a cool way to do it.
All right. So, but each company gives you a contingency. Obviously, J Concepts does. I know you just joined Fly Sky. Thank you, Fly Sky. I'm sure they do things for you as well. All right. So, what race? Nationals will be a good pay, I think, because it's a big race.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So what's funny with the way Tekno does it is like when I won Silver State, Truggy, whatever, that was a way bigger payout than the Nationals because of the Nationals. Yeah, because there's no European guys there.
Makes sense.
So when the Euro dudes are there, that's when it can get really good because then the top 25 list gets bigger.
Okay. All right. So give me an estimate of what if you go to a DNC and you win Truggy and Buggy, give me an estimate. You have to do a rounded estimate of how much you make in contingency just off of all your companies.
Probably
a DNC.
Yeah, it's probably 8 to 12.
That's
something
good.
Like that.
That's decent. So you are always racing for money. There's a difference between first and so if you came first and you came 10th, what would be the difference?
Well, 10th is nothing.
Nothing. So you don't get paid for 10th?
No, not at all.
Fuck, that's shitty.
Why would you get paid for 10th? Who the hell wants to advertise
free that weekend, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, you don't like. Does the company really want to advertise 10th? Like, they pay you to do good so that they have something to advertise.
So what is it? Top 3 or top 5?
For me, it's top 3, maybe top 5. But it obviously like dwindles rapidly. You know what I mean?
All right. So what's the difference between a third place and a second place? More or less estimate.
Probably. I would say it's like 55% different from like first to second, and then maybe a 30 to 40% different to third.
Okay. So it's a significant drop.
Yeah.
Significant drop. Well, that's good. I know that you make your money. Most racers make their money off that. You have also branched out with the RM as well. No apologies and all this type of stuff. You're hooked up with AMAM with your RM engine and all this good stuff. Are you seeing dividends from that as well?
Yeah, that comes in quarterly basically, and that's only like 400,000 or 500,000 a year. Just kidding. It's like it's maybe
there's millions of units of RM engines.
No, it's nothing crazy. I mean, it's cool. Obviously, I'm thankful.
Yes,
kind of have that kind of stuff, but that's definitely not, changing.
But that's good for the future, right?
Yeah,
With
I mean,
aiming.
it's good that these companies, I guess, like me and respect me enough that they think like, okay, we're going to set something up here for, for you to have some traction later on. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Do you think you can still? Okay, here's a better question. When your racing days are done, which may be 6 years from now, you make 50 and still beating guys. What type of role do you see for Ryan Mayfield when he's done racing in RC? What would you like to segue into?
Well, I don't think I'm going anywhere. Like I've dedicated my entire life to this industry. You know what I mean? I haven't had a lot of time to learn another industry. So I don't know. I mean, like development side of things, I don't know. I've kind of seen it all, done it all, watched how things are done well, watched how things are done bad, poorly. And, I don't know. Eventually, I'm assuming there'll be a role for me somewhere that, I fill a void, because at the end of the day, it's like all these years are eventually going to be still worth something, what I mean? And dedication to the craft. And, that's what I'm hoping for anyways. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think you're doing a good job in this later half of your career, really building your brand. Right. And that's going to last for a long time.
I could definitely be doing it better and pushing, more like Adam Drake's obviously the top of the list with that. You know what I mean? He's built a big brand. But he works his ass off. I mean, that engine stuff he does is time consuming and he does it really well. So
if anybody's earned their right to make money and make money off their image in RC, it's Adam Drake.
Yep, for sure. Yep.
So good stuff. All right, moving on. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. Let's see. We went over quite a few things here. Let's talk about the future of RC. We have arguments about this. You don't think RC can be mainstream? Neither do I. You don't think it'd be a spectator sport? I disagree. I think it has to be done right. You've been to a spectator sport race. But one thing you said was media coverage and being more available for media coverage, which I'm seeing. Obviously, I'm working with Elite, which is doing a lot more media at races. I'm working with various different media outlets, which I enjoy. And you are about showing the human side of RC. I think we have to show this, right? We have to show the human side. I think RC is way less vanilla than it was maybe even 2 years ago. Because now you guys seem to be, obviously you can say things within a certain parameters. Like you can't go out there and trash talk your car, and you can't go out there and like say anything, just any willy-nilly type of stuff. But you guys are allowed, I think, a little bit more to show some emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it got any, it would have to be like a reality TV type thing. You know what I mean? Like they're following drivers around, pick some good personalities. You see some home life, you see this, you see that, and then you dabble in some racing. You know what I mean? It would have to be, I think, something like that. Because, I mean, to be honest, even when I watch racing, I'm like, I'm bored. I don't know what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
It's not catered to us.
Yeah, it's just. So I try to look at it objectively, and just because I have a passion for driving them doesn't mean that I think everybody's going to love to see them go around the track. You know what I mean? Like I think it's more of a novelty item at best for people that have never seen it. They go, "Oh, that's cool," and after they ask how fast does it go, they go, "How much is it?" And then they go, "Oh, I'm out." You know what I mean? Like, so it's expensive, obviously. So I don't know. It would be cool if for some reason people would enjoy watching it, but it's a participation thing. Like you can do this. You can go to these races with the best guys in the world and interact with them, on a first name basis. And, which that's unique in itself. You know what I mean? Like you can't buy a dirt bike and just go sign up and race against Eli Tomac. You know what I mean? Like, and if you did, you'd probably die, but I mean,
probably.
That's what's different. So, I mean, I think that's what's good about these race promoters like Joey and Dave Lycum and, Lance and whoever else puts on these events. It's like, that's what's keeping RC healthy and going is that people have these big events to look forward to and, get their buddies to go,
it's an adventure.
Yeah. And it creates it's camping essentially, you know what I mean? For a lot of dudes. You know, it's a vacation and you're doing something competitive, you know, and that's what it should be. You know?
I like that aspect as I've gotten to go to a lot more races. Okay, here's something, because now that I'm working in the industry to an extent and traveling a good bit, obviously been there as a hobbyist, like these guys that come from to do this as a hobby and they do it part-time. I think it's hard for them to fathom that at the end of the day, this is still a job. We know that you came to this race because you're hanging out with your buddies and you're going to camp and you're going to do some racing. Okay, I enjoy going to these races. I enjoy going there. We have that part, but when it's time to work, it's time to work. And at the end of the day, it's still a job. Yeah. And I think there's a big disconnect in there because a lot of people can't really understand. Like, they're like, oh, you should be so happy that you're doing this job. Don't get me wrong. I love what I'm doing, but it can still be a job. You still need a break. You still need time off. You still need time to focus on other things. And I agree with you. This is a job that doesn't have regular hours. It's never ending.
Yeah.
Right. You got to do the work at home. You got to answer people's Facebooks. You got to, help this person if they ask you a question right away. It's never good. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot harder jobs out there. And I respect people that do that.
Yeah.
But it's still a job at the end of the day.
Yeah. And when things are tough, or not going my way, like at Worlds, I'd like come back, sit down and be like, well, at least I'm not on a roof putting shingles down right now, or whatever. Like, it could always be worse, but it is a job and it is time consuming. And the biggest thing is that for me, I've learned that if you're not super hard on yourself, as far as like, nobody's telling you to wake up and go build a car, go to the track and practice. Nobody's telling you that. You have to tell yourself that. You know what I mean? So like, that's, something that other people don't understand as well is like, if you're not self-motivated, you're not going to make it. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. And the other thing that's unique is like my job is a hobby for other people. For everybody else that does it, it's a hobby for you.
Yes.
It's a job for me. You know what I mean? So,
and a sport at your level, in my opinion, to an extent.
It doesn't take much physical, so I never really call it a sport. But it's.
But I mean,
I also don't call it a hobby. I don't know.
It's a weird thing. The sport of doing the hobby of RC. I don't know. I hate calling it. Two things. I hate calling it toy cars because I think we do that too. I think deep down, some of us are ashamed that we do this because it's not. You go back to people don't understand what we're doing. I go back to people don't know what we're doing. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could classify this as fishing. I think the same as fishing. You know what I mean? Like,
anybody can be a hero in fishing.
Anybody can fish, right? But there is also this elite level of the top 1% that are sponsored by boats and get paid all this money and have big purse money and blah, blah, blah. But anybody can just throw a rod in and fish. Anybody can just drive this RC car, and if you put time in, you can get pretty good. But then there's a couple more levels up, you know what I mean, that are way faster.
I think drivers like you, Ron Falk, all these top guys who can win at any race that they go, Canas, Ongaro, Fend. I think that you guys have the mentality and work ethic and will and talent. Obviously, you're talented in this. I think if this was any other sport, the mentality that you guys have is no different than, say, a top basketball player, a top NFL player, or a top soccer player. The only thing is in RC, there's nothing really physically that you can do to make yourself better. Yes, people are doing things. I think hand-eye coordination is important and going to be something in the future. But the mentality to be the best at what you guys at and not say take your losses, come back, and not take a loss, like force your way into a win is the same mentality that those guys have to be successful at the level that they're at.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume, I think the best basketball players in the world, I doubt somebody's telling them to wake up and go to the gym. They're telling themselves that, you know what I mean? Like, if you're just sitting back on your talent, hoping to do good, you're not going to do shit. Doesn't matter how talented you are, So I think, you have a talent. You better earn it at the end of the day, and the only way you earn it is by putting in work.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to finish this off with this. How do we grow our hobby / sport? What would you like to see happen? Give me some ideas.
I mean, in what way? Do you want more participants, or do you want it on TV? Like,
I wanted to get more participants. I think everything should be to get more participants, because the more participants racing, the better it is for everybody that's involved in it. The racers, the companies, you, me, the hobby.
Yeah.
But I also think that we're not doing enough. We're getting there. We're getting there with the coverage, and we're getting there with the amount of stuff we're seeing there. But how do we take it to, because it's hard, right? This isn't easy. We have a lot of things to compete with now too than we did back, even when you was racing, when you started racing.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still think it's impressive when I show up to these events and there's that many people there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it is a global, hobby. You know, every continent has it. So, I mean, it's expensive. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of probably one of the biggest things that prevents people from doing it, or time wise, or just don't care. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how you get people interested in it. It's either you're either interested in it or you're not. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of cynical people out there that have been in the industry for a long time, and that are loud on the internet and like to try to like make it seem like it's not doing well. Well, the hobby is doing pretty well, like
when I go to these big races, they're packed.
Yeah. And like, the companies aren't doing sales numbers that they did during COVID, but they're better than what they were before COVID. You know what I mean? Like, everything during COVID, either just plummeted or skyrocketed, you know what I mean? But RC is one that, like, you could actually do it. So it got a lot of, there was a ton of sales. People were buying up stuff, you know what I mean? Because you could go race still. So I think there's this assumption that, like, it's not healthy and it's not continuing to grow. It actually is. It's just, it's not at the front line. You know what I mean? Like,
how about the professional side? Like you guys' side, with drivers and getting paid. And I know, because not everybody makes a lot of money at this.
No, well, it's, I think the biggest way to make money as a pro is, like, that's why I mentioned earlier, I want to get my ass back to the 10 scale track, because, the more diversified of a driver you are, the more money you can potentially make. You know what I mean? You become more relevant for, companies that, whatever, you just make yourself more available, basically. So, it's currently right now, it's kind of, there's only like a handful of dudes that like race both, and those guys are probably making the most money. You know what I mean? Like, if you're good at everything, then you're going to make money, basically. If you're just an individual, or like you're individual or whatever, like you're a specialist, like, oh, I only race A scale, which is basically what I've been doing. I feel like I've been leaving money on the table, you know what I mean? And then, you're less attractive to companies that make a whole line of products. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you are not the norm in RC either. So I want people to understand that what the finances that we're talking about with you've earned. You're one of the top racers in the world, if not one of the best. So
I've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But not everybody's making what you're making. There's some guys out there that are barely making anything and they're still doing it,
Yeah, but I mean,
it's the same in motocross, same in all sports.
Yeah, there's obviously levels to, everything. And, but no, I mean, yeah, it's like you listed a few guys earlier, then you're probably accurate with those are the guys that are making, good money. You know what I mean? But you also see their names at the top of the list, and you most likely don't, like, if you pay attention to their Facebook pages or whatever, if they want to post it, you'll probably see them at the track a lot. You know what I mean? Away from the event, away from events, just
but in that time,
that's
what it takes.
That's a thing, that's a big thing. So,
what advice would you give to an aspiring young racer?
Well, the other thing that I haven't really mentioned is like the personality. Your personality matters. You know what I mean? Like, if you are relatable to people, or you're entertaining, or whatever, like, that makes you more valuable also. You know what I mean? Like, it's companies don't want just a robot standing there saying hi, yes, no. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to interact, do podcasts, get interviewed right away and like have something good to say, whatever.
That has
like,
improved. That has improved a lot in RC
Yeah.
in the last few years.
Yeah.
Improved a lot.
That's a thing as well. So it's, I don't know. There's definitely no direct way to a path. You have to do this to make this money. You know what I mean? It's just, it takes time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, my first paycheck was like $500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
everybody wants to get big money right off the bat. They don't understand the grind involved in it.
Yeah. I mean,
or they need the best deal because they got 50 likes.
Yeah, or they won one race and whatever. I mean, it's just crazy. And people think that we do make life-changing amounts of money, and we don't. Like I make enough money to support my family. You know what I mean? And maybe have a little extra. You know what I mean? Occasionally, but I'm not sitting back here with millions of dollars in a retirement account. Like I still have to work. I still got to earn my living.
Hey, I know all about grinding out the RC life trying to make money. So I'm fully understand that. Yeah, man. All right. My last question is going to be to you. And what does Ryan Mayfield wish to see in RC in the future? What would you like to see happen?
I wish everybody would quit being such a pussy and we could race on some real A-scale tracks. Like,
okay, what would be a real 8-scale track for you? Give me an example.
Like, man, I remember like watching videos from the mid 2000s, like the European stuff, like the Worlds in Sweden. Like that shit was gnarly. It was crazy how bumpy.
The Vasa Worlds you're talking about?
I think it's the Worlds. Yeah, I think the Sweden Worlds, whatever year that was, the Vegas Worlds in like '99.
Oh, you mean 8-scale?
A-scale. Like
yeah.
Like these manicured tracks are boring, man. Like, it doesn't make good racing. It's basically like if we keep going down that path with A-scale, like I think 10-scale, we've already killed it with 10-scale. Like the tracks are so manicured perfect. The cars are so specific. They're not super fun to drive. Even when they work really well, they're not that fun to drive. So an A-scale car on like a loose kind of blown out track, like it's fun. Like you hit a line right and you're like, holy shit, that was so cool. So and these A-scale cars are still designed, to race on stuff like that. But if we keep racing on the track in Spain, then you're going to start seeing cars that are just made for that. You know what I mean?
Like carpet and dirt.
Yeah, like it's gonna kill it. It's gonna make it to where the cars are just too hard, too precise. But what's great about A-scale right now is like, we're gonna go to this race this weekend at Tony Schumacher's track, and like a couple of my buddies, I just built them an e-buggy, and I'm like, here you go. This is gonna be the most fun you've ever had. You know what I mean? Because it's strong, it jumps good, it makes you're just driving on loose track, and like it's just satisfying every single time. But if I went, hey, let's go to Spain and run on this shit, they would be like, this is so dumb. Like every time I turn the wheel, the car flips over. Like, you know what I mean? So like that's what I'd want to see. I want to see the tracks not so manicured. Quit treating them all the time
and be harder.
Yeah, and glue and shit. Like just let it be. It's an off-road car. Let's just race off-road.
And make the tracks more challenging.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. I'm sorry. What do you want to see? What would you like to see change innovative wise in our vehicles right now? If you could change something.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool if the shocks were better, some sort of fuel injected system. I mean, but all that stuff would just cost so much money. You know what I mean? It's all possible, but if you had like a bitchin' set of bypass shocks on your car, it's like you get in a crash, you're like, oh, I just blew up a $500 shock. Like that would be a bummer. I think our cars are pretty simple as far as engineering, like levels of engineering go, in comparison to other racing, forms of racing. But, we also have to sell this to the average customer. If this thing costs 10 grand, you know what I mean? Like nobody will do it. You know what I mean? And it's not like NASCAR to where we're getting TV money coming in to support these teams. Like these teams are ran by car sales. You know what I mean? Like by people buying the car. So you have to keep it pretty simple. It has to be easy to work on. It has to be durable as all hell. And it has to be, some tuning options. And hopefully people buy it, but I think we could do a badass shock. That'd be pretty fun. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, just getting the tracks back to normal would be cool for sure.
Okay. So you want more challenging. They don't have to be blown out like Silver State, but
no, just like natural dirt. Like if that's the dirt that's there, then whatever happens, right? Nitro Challenge sometimes gets bumpy, sometimes it doesn't get bumpy. You know what I mean? Like sometimes Silver State gets really bumpy. Like this year it wasn't super bad. Like that's what I like, is that like you go to these races and you don't know what's going to happen. Like you go to the AMS this year, most likely if there's a turn at the end of the straightaway, it's going to get fucked up. Like it always does.
And at the end of the straightaway.
Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't, you know what I mean? And then another part of the track might get something you have to like go around or whatever. Like, so that's I like seeing tracks evolve throughout the weekend to where you have to evolve with them,
Gotcha.
And these treated tracks, it doesn't happen.
Got you. Cool. Well, you have fun at the Nitro Compound, which I think is one of the baddest ass tracks in the world. It's huge. I've never even been there. I've just seen pictures and videos of it. And I know Schumacher puts a lot of work into it, and it deserves all that the entries that he can get.
Yep.
Because it's a work of, a track is a labor of love, and it's a big track.
Yeah.
And he's turned into a good friend of mine. Yep. And I'll see you at AMS. And we seem to have a few Europeans coming, and I always love it when the Europeans come.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Everybody's game.
Yep, that'll be fun. It was fun last time. I mean, I learned that Canassa likes to drink beer too. I was like, all right, we're friends.
He does. Now you guys on the same tire brand. That's going to be interesting to see. His first race back over on the very dominated J Concept indoor races in the Southeast. Very dominant tire. The dominant tire. The dominant tire.
We'll see.
Oh, dude, thank you for your time. I appreciate the chat with you, and maybe we'll have you back on at some point. And I'll see you at the races, man. And I appreciate you coming on her. Let's convince Adam Drake to come on her. That's what I'm trying to get on her. I need to get Truey. I need to get like Billy Fisher. I need to get all these guys, all the old school guys.
Adam would have. I don't think Adam would. He might not want to be on here with JQ's on here.
No, but you see, I just want to have an interview like this. I'm going to work on him again. I've tried, and obviously, between JQ and him, now they seem to be on good terms. But JQ he'll mess up a good time at the Playboy Mansion. So
yeah.
I want to thank you for your time, and I think you're going to be rocking this for a while, and I'm really looking forward to the 2026 Worlds. I really am. I can't wait.
Yeah, we'll see. A lot of work to be done until then, for sure.
Thank you, Ryan, for your time. I greatly appreciate it, man. Good. Have fun, and I'll see you at the future races.
Yep, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed the Ryan Mayfield special. Thank you, Ryan, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. Max, thank you for your time as well. We rambled on. I hope you guys don't mind us rambling on. That's like we're celebrating the podcast. 300 episodes, man. Here's to 300 more. It's going to take about 5 years.
I don't know. It depends. It depends how it goes. I think if we like shorten them up, like we've been doing recently, then maybe we get more. But, yeah. Because then we might.
Yeah, we're gonna make them shorter.
Yeah,
we're not gonna go away from the long episodes as well, but they're not gonna be 5 hours every time. I don't know if you'll ever do another 5-hour podcast.
Yeah, but you remember those times when it's just you and me, nobody else, just you and me, and they was like 4.5 hours. And
How about during COVID? Then there was nothing going on.
Yeah, that was. I don't.
Was you during COVID?
I wasn't there because I remember I joined like.
You was under punishment by JQ.
Yeah, I joined at the end of 2020. No, beginning of 2021. That's when I joined. That's where I was doing my own videos too. By the way, go check them out. They're still topical.
Go check them out. There's a link for it in the written description of this podcast.
One thing I do want to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's like, imagine if like now that we played the Ryan Mayfield interview, how long is that? Like an hour and a half or something? Like
hour and 45.
Hour and 45. Imagine if we just sat here and watched the whole thing and then we're doing the outro. Like imagine if we did that. For the people listening, they've been listening for Mayfield for an hour and 45 minutes, and we just back on here.
Magic of editing.
Yeah.
Magic of editing. I did want to say one thing, and that was, hey, please don't forget to hit that like notification button. We're starting to see that more people are coming over to the YouTube to watch this than the audio only. If you are audio only, come over to the YouTube as well and hit that like, sub, and notification button. Join the NNRC Discord. Lots of content in there. Lots of people talking in there. if you want to support the podcast a little extra, join that Patreon or YouTube members. Yeah, man. I don't know. Oh, we do have a podcast coming out next week. We'll touch on silly season news and all that stuff. It'll just be that. We'll be talking about that prior to I go to AMS. That'll be happening next week. That should be the first show in the new studio. So it might be a little janky. Might be a little bit plain. But yeah, man, I'm super happy with how things are going, Max. I'm looking forward to 2025. Thank you all for all the support. Honestly, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you, Max, for all your help. And thank you to everybody that helps us out in the background as well. They know who they are. Thank you to all the sponsors. And man, the No Name RC podcast. The No Name RC podcast. Like, who the fuck would have thought that? The No Name RC podcast. The podcast of no name has become something so cool. I think it's cool. And I think the podcast has been many things for many different people over the years. And some people would message me and say, your podcast got me through this, or your podcast got me into that, or your this. So it's also a personal
your
touch.
podcast got me pissed because that little Finnish cunt kept on saying stupid shit.
That's about right too. Don't get them two more. Thank goodness. But they used to aggravate me. But no, seriously, you would be surprised how much the podcast has helped people.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to be honest that this is therapeutic for me because I've been going like through quite busy times. At times, been really stressed about life in general, and then I just pop on here and talk about RC. It's weird because like it's not. I don't have a track close by. I don't really get to race that often. So for me, it's like I don't really get that RC thing more. But this podcast has become my geeking out about RC, which is fun. So.
Yep, that's good. But I mean, I've had people message me and say, like, hey, your podcast helped me get through a divorce. Like, or I just got over a divorce.
Yeah.
Or this is one of the coolest things. Your podcast helped me realize I'm not a weirdo because I love RC so much. And we'll talk about it all the time.
I got bad. You're still a weirdo, but at least you got some of us more.
We're weirdos. I'm weird.
Yeah,
I'm weird. But you know what? Thank you, everybody, for the love. We greatly appreciate it. I know I appreciate it. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support of everybody out there. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Max, thank you. Thank you for all your time. And I'll see you next week, buddy, in the new studio. Max and Lefty out for the last time in the old studio to the new studio and 300 and beyond. And you know what I'm looking for, that outro. Bye, everybody. See you later. Nitro's glory. E-Buggy pays the bills. Max and Lefty, we're out.